Well, Toby Keith had a pretty good single out at one time. It's still a pretty good single. How do you like me now? And that is the question a lot of these preseason Heisman hopefuls are asking to their fan base. How do you like me now that I'm not on my way? That's where we start the show, start the conversation on this hump day edition of Wire to Wire. Welcome into a Wednesday show. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you. And Diesel, I'm sure you remember this, but about a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, you and I did a segment right here on this show. You brought it up about Heisman hopefuls and fast forwarding into the season, how many of those Heisman hopefuls would still be on the Heisman list? You remember that? We had that conversation.
Yep.
And I think we actually predicted who we thought would be on and who we thought would be off. Now, I hope that segment's not archived anywhere. Unfortunately, it probably is.
Well, it is in Tom's mind because Tom in Somerville calls us once a week to remind me that Cade Klubnik will not win the Heisman. And he bet dinner at Chop House 47 on it.
Yeah, that's true. He did. And I think he'll probably remind you a few more times. So that's where we start the show. A conversation already starting on the stream. Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is where you can watch the show. Who is now the Heisman hopeful? Who's your Heisman, Tolos? If you out there in the upstate were on the ballot, if you had a vote, who would get your vote a couple of weeks into the season? A huge show coming your way, Tolos. We're going to get into a lot today, and I mean a lot. Upset Picks Challenge begins 1 hour from right now. Don't send them in yet. You've got to wait until 4 o'clock on the dot. We'll be joined by Matt Park, the play-by-play voice of the Syracuse Orange at 4:22. Xavier Leggett conversation. We're going to bring back the welfare check. It's been a while since we've done that. He's a little hot seat conversation. Bill Bender of The Sporting News, our weekly Thursday guest at that time. And we'll hear from Tom Allen, some audio from yesterday, as well as what Shane Beamer had to say coming up at 6 o'clock. But does it surprise you, Diesel, just how fast some of these Heisman hopefuls have dropped with us only having 2 to 3 weeks thus far of sample size while you have your Texas Burn Orange Arch Manning shirt on today?
Well, you know, it's interesting. There's always so much preseason hype. And it's funny how we always say we hate the preseason hype. Down with the preseason hype. Get rid of the preseason polls. We don't need that kind of stuff. It paints a false picture and creates a false narrative. But what do? We gobble it up. Every single time it comes out. We talk about it. We debate about it. We tell other people they're wrong. We don't know any better than they do because nobody knows anything. Nobody's played a game. If you're talking about preseason polls and picks and thises and that's, nobody knows.
Sure.
So it is shocking to me just how many of the preseason Heisman favorites and hopefuls have dropped off the list. It was a sure thing that Cade Klubnik was going to be elite this year.
Yep.
It was a sure thing that Arch Manning, just by virtue of having a famous last name, was going to walk in and take the sport by the horns, literally. And it hasn't played out that way.
And rumor has it, Diesel, they're actually having to take the Heisman back from Arch Manning already.
Okay.
Is the way that's inside sources.
I didn't realize it was already en route.
Correct. So we have some new news as of today. On this 17th day of September, Diesel, Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer is now the new favorite for the award, the Heisman Trophy Award, at several sports books, including ESPN Bet, showing plus 850 odds as of Tuesday afternoon. Actually, yesterday is when this changed. At some other shops, though, Diesel, you can find Miami quarterback Carson Beck as the favorite, getting a short market wide as plus 700 at BetMGM. Either way, it's the longest odds for a Heisman favorite at this point in the season since 2012, according to data compiled by ESPN and SportsOddHistory.com. So the previous longest favorite was LSU running back Leonard Fournette at plus 500 heading into week 4 when Leonard Fournette was at LSU. And it's largely in line, according to the research, Diesel. with how bookmakers saw the Heisman race playing out is Arch Manning, as we talked about, was the longest preseason favorite in over 15 years at plus 650. And unfortunately, we can start with Arch. Those numbers, Diesel.
That one feels like a manufactured artificial line just to get people to bet on it.
Yeah.
Because you knew they would.
Those numbers just don't correlate. So here's his numbers through 2025 at Texas. He has completed 47 of 85 passes.
It's not good.
Not great. Nope.
Just barely over 50%.
It's 55.3, which under a 60% completion rating is not typically elite in this sport. Cade Klubnik, by the way, we'll get to him. He also has a sub 60% completion rating. Arch Manning, 579 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, quarterback rating of 128.8. So Arch Manning, we'll start there. And Tolos, again, if you just tuned in, we want to hear from you at 844-326-3663. Who would your Heisman vote be for today? Arch Manning, Diesel, he's had a rough start. And I want to ask this question to you and the Tolos out there. Is Arch already too far gone, or do you think he can work himself back in the conversation?
No, he's not too far gone.
You don't think so?
No, he's not, because his name is Arch Manning.
Oh, yeah.
All he needs to do is have a couple of really great games in the SEC schedule. Not that I'm saying I expect him to.
Sure.
But he's playing in the SEC. He's playing against the best of the best competition. And give me a second here. I'll pull up Texas's schedule here just to prove a point that he's got opportunities left on this schedule to play out and show out against great competition. You telling me that people are not going to be paying attention to Arch Manning if he goes out there and lights up number 11 Oklahoma?
Ooh.
By
the way, when's that game?
That game is on October 11th.
Ooh.
Couple weeks later, they're playing at home against Vanderbilt. Now that right there is going to give you an opportunity for a side-by-side comparison of Arch and Diego Pavia, two very different styles of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Diego Pavia should be a favorite to win the Heisman because he's just so much fun to watch. And you know as well as I do, Cole, that this Vanderbilt wave, probably not all that sustainable. Give it next year once Diego Pavia is gone. Do you really think this Vanderbilt team is going to maintain their elevated status? I doubt it. I mean, history is what history is on the Vanderbilt football program. And then Arch could go get it done at Georgia or against Texas A&M. God, they get so many of their biggest opponents at home. That's not even fair.
So, Diesel, just for kicks and giggles right now, at most sports books, and I'm looking at FanDuel, I'm looking at Bet365, I'm looking at BetMGM, Diego Pavia right now is around plus 6,000 to win the Heisman. Wow. Plus 6,000. So way out there, right? You're talking about a guy who, to your point, is very, very fun to watch. Statistically, 50 of 68, a completion percentage of 73.5, right? Yeah. That's impressive.
How is he such long odds?
645 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 181.3. So you compare the 73.5 completion rating to Arch Manning, who, again, has a 55.3 completion rating. You compare it to Cade Klubnik of Clemson, who has a 59.1 completion percentage through his 3 games. And then you compare it to Drew Aller of Penn State, who has a 64.8 completion percentage as of right now. Diego Pavia, today, Diesel, is a better quarterback than any of those Heisman odds that favorites that we just talked about. So that's surprising. Now, Drew Aller was also in the preseason conversation. Again, Drew Aller through 3 games, 57 of 88, a 64.8 completion percentage, 626 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Good numbers. I just don't know that as of right now, he has the numbers, the sexy stats, if you will, to compete with the John Mateers of the world. So we talk about Manning's odds falling so much, amid his struggles, Diesel, through 3 games. he currently ranks tied for 15th on the board. That's how far he's fallen. Now, Lenora Sellers was also a popular play for bettors before the season, right? And according to here's what's interesting about Lenoris. According to the Heisman market, and we'll get to your comments, Tolos, as well on the stream and the text line in just a second. Diesel, here's what's staggering. Here's what's alarming. Lenora Sellers is currently, according to ESPN Bet, the biggest liability for the Heisman market. This is according to ESPN Bet Senior Trading Director Adrian Horton.
Explain what that means. Liability to the market.
So after he was injured in the Gamecocks 31-7 loss to Vandy, Sellers' odds have lengthened all the way to plus 5,000 from plus 1,400 before the season.
Wait a minute, weren't Diego Pavia's plus 6,000?
Yes.
So it's still a longer bet to
bet Diego.
Get out of here.
Make that make sense, right?
Madcraft says Vanderbilt's record should be irrelevant. It's about play, right? Unfortunately, it's not about Vanderbilt's record. It's about Vanderbilt's reputation.
Ooh.
And you know as well as I do, the Heisman goes to a great player on a really good team.
Most
and
time
the Heisman, well, the folks in Vegas, they're not looking at Vanderbilt as a team that's got much sex appeal down the stretch throughout the season.
But as of right now, they should, right?
They should. Diego Pavia is incredible. He is must-watch TV every time he gets the ball.
And
it's
Vanderbilt's
infuriating
good
to prepare for him.
And it's not like they're not good. It's not like Vanderbilt's a bad football team.
Mitchell on the text line says, "I've not seen anyone look like Heisman material." Okay, Mitchell, we just won't give one out this year.
So that's an interesting text from Mitchell, saying that he hadn't seen anyone look like Heisman material. And Mitchell's comment there leads me to the question that I want to ask again to the Tolos on the stream. A lot of people on the stream, Madcraft, T-Swizzle, JB, let's see, Stephen Webb. What's up, Stephen? Dewey, a few of you I've missed already. I apologize. But those of you commenting and chatting it back and forth, with your eyes from what you've seen today, on the 17th of September, if you have to cast a vote today, who are you casting that vote to today? 844-326-3663 is the number you can text the show. Phone lines are open as well. Diesel, Jeremiah Smith was also a guy talked about. Mm-hmm. The only problem is, kind of going back to Mitchell's text, Jeremiah Smith hadn't had the sexy numbers yet either. Now,
he's got a freshman quarterback.
He does.
And he plays wide receiver. He's got to wait for that quarterback to give him the ball.
And while his numbers aren't like astounding, Diesel, they're still really good. 20 receptions thus far, 315 yards. He's averaging 15.8 yards per reception, 3 touchdowns. One of those was an 87-yarder earlier in the season. So it's not like Jeremiah Smith just hasn't shown up. And then you throw in Cade Klubnik. Well, how's he done? He's 52 of 88, a 59.1 completion percentage, 633 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns on the season, 3 interceptions on the season. He's been sacked 3 times, and he has a quarterback rating of 123.9. So to answer the question that I asked at 844-326-3663, does John Mateer now all of a sudden feel like the overall consensus if we had to place a vote today, Diesel? I mean, Madcraft says Mateer.
It's hard to go against him, right?
Right. JB says Mateer. T-Swizzle says Caleb Downs, straight up game changer. JB says nobody mentioned the quarterback at FSU. Madcraft says, I'm going to go crazy here with all the great play we've seen so far. I'm leaning defensive player. A lot of good pass rushers. It is a – look, I think I would agree that my vote today would go to Mateer. Caleb Downs is a fantastic safety at Ohio State. Like, there's no doubt his numbers or his impact is felt. But from a number standpoint, we're never going to give the Heisman Trophy to a safety. Not unless Diesel is a Travis Hunter, play both ways kind of guy, right?
Wouldn't this be a great season to do it, though? I mean, how many times have we criticized the Heisman committee for making this a quarterback award? Over the last decade and a half, 20, 30 years, it's been a quarterback award. It doesn't have to be.
No, I'm with you there. It doesn't have to be. And maybe there's a player that does make that jump. John Mateer, by the way, Let's see. John Mateer through 2025, the junior signal caller for Oklahoma State. He's 71 of 105, a completion percentage of 67.6, 944 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Quarterback rating of 153.1. John Mateer probably has solid enough numbers. But Diesel, let me throw a wild one at you. Do you know who leads the country right now in passing yards? And we've talked about Mateer. We've talked about, Klubnik and Arch and Drew Aller. But if you go look at statistics only, and I know statistics aren't the end-all, be-all when it comes to the Heisman Trophy, right? But, Diesel, Steve Angeli, Syracuse.
It's been pretty good.
Leads the country as of today with 1,072 yards. He's not the touchdown leader. He has 8. Sawyer Robertson of Baylor has 2 more. He has 10. And I think the Texas Tech quarterback has 11. But as of today, Steve Angeli on a, what? Are we going to call Syracuse below average football team? Is that what we're calling them? Average football team? Steve Angeli has the best numbers.
I mean, let's face it, they're not loaded with 5 stars.
No.
And he's looked really, really, really good. You look back at his 2024 and his 2023 numbers while at Notre Dame. He didn't play the majority of snaps, of course, but in that limited action that he did see in those seasons, he was just as accurate. His percentage was up there. His yardage was up there. I mean, he would have been a lights out quarterback at Notre Dame if they'd started him.
Stephen Webb on Facebook says, listen, if the award counts what he means to his team, the best candidate out there, hands down, is Haynes King. So, Stephen, it's really interesting you bring that up.
How do you say Haynes King and not Diego Pavia? And not to beat the drum, I'm just saying.
No, it's a fair conversation to be had, but I'll go back to what Bill Bender said. Do you remember 2 or 3 weeks ago? By the way, Bill Bender joining us today at 5:22, Tolos. Don't miss it. It's going to be a great interview. Bill's awesome. Sporting News. Diesel, on this show a couple of weeks ago, Bill Bender said, no quarterback in the country means more to his team than Haynes King means to Georgia Tech. So, to Steven's comment, when you talk about MVP, most valuable player, you could argue that Haynes King does mean more to his team. Unfortunately, to Diesel's point earlier in the conversation, the Heisman Trophy isn't given most of the time to Diesel, the most valuable player on the team. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to throw this at you as well. Completion percentage matters, right? I'm not saying completion percentage Diesel matters more than touchdowns or yards. But if you just go strictly by completion percentage, Carson Beck's the best quarterback in the country. Just off of completion percentage, he leads the country in completion percentage at 79.3. Julian Sayin is second at 78.9. Dante Moore of Oregon, third at 78.1. Dylan Raiola, Nebraska, fourth at 76.6. So, obviously, when you talk about Heisman Trophy, so many things go into the culmination of why they choose this person for the Heisman Trophy. But you've got to look at all stats. And I'm just saying, maybe, just maybe, Carson Beck on the 17th day of September, Diesel, maybe Carson Beck's the best play if you were to go into a sports book right now and bet Carson Beck.
Yeah,
that might be a pretty good bet coming out a few months from now.
Given the schedule, they're going to win or be favorited in just about every single game. We'll see what happens with the Florida State game later on this year.
Yeah.
They're going to have an opportunity with Carson Beck to light up the stat sheet on a week-in, week-out basis. I mean, you hope that they leave Carson Beck in for the majority of every single one of those games. If they start torching this ACC competition, they may end up pulling him out of games before he really has a chance to absolutely light up the stat sheet. And that would be unfortunate. I mean, I know that Heisman voters, they take some things like that into account, and that happens everywhere, right? I mean, you take your starter out to keep him from getting hurt if you're up 28 points in the fourth quarter. But, I mean, yeah, he is – it's set up. And we talked about it preseason as well with Miami and their road to an ACC championship game. Given the schedule, given their draw, they are set up very nicely to get to Charlotte.
You're right. However, I think I would agree with an earlier point discussed, Diesel, in the sense of one thing before we run to a break. I have no problem if the quarterback is truly the best player. I have no problem with that quarterback winning the Heisman Trophy. However, I do have a problem. You and I have had this conversation many, many times on this show. I do have a problem with just the committee, the voters, just automatically waking up and assuming that it's the quarterback that's going to win it. To, whoever, I think T. Swizzle brought it up earlier in the show. Let's not always forget about guys like Caleb Downs at Ohio State, who's a really good player. I'm not saying Caleb Downs is deserving today of the Heisman Trophy. I'm just saying, to your point, maybe there's somebody out there that might not have the numbers, but does mean more to their team. Diesel, unfortunately, I think this Heisman Trophy has become more about numbers than actual being a meaningful player to your team.
Well, I mean, have we not seen over the last 7, 8, 10 days what it's like when people start calling into question voters and how they make their decision making? That's a thing now, by the way. And they've been releasing AP voters ballots for years. It's just now sort of become that thing you do. Every week, everybody's going through every single person's AP ballot. There was one AP voter who moved South Carolina up and didn't rank Vanderbilt after Vanderbilt beat them at home. So it's the exact same scenario that we saw play out with Haley Sawyer with the South Florida game. That's just the thing you do. And with Heisman voters, they don't necessarily have to explain how and why they come to the decision making that they do. There's a very good chance that they just look at the numbers and that's it. I mean, I would hope that these Heisman voters take it seriously enough that when it comes down to it, they have their hopeful, they have their list, they have their short list of 4 or 5 guys, and they're going back and consuming a ton of video and content, trying to just really decide who was the best player.
Exclamation point on the segment. If you have a $50 bill in your hand and you walk into a sports book right now, you're putting that $50 on who to win the Heisman. If you're trying to win money back from that $50, who are you putting it on?
Oh man, it's hard to not put it on John Mateer. It's hard to not put it on Carson Beck.
I think I'd go Carson Beck today. Well, that $50, I think I'd put it on Carson. I think to your point earlier about scheduling, yes, he sees a gauntlet. We know that, Diesel, and man, Carson Beck looks pretty good.
Cole, I got some really bad news for you. Sports world in general, but specifically for you. And I'm going to tell you what it is on the other side of the break on the Fan Upstate. Look, I know a lot of you, just like Cole does, like to start your day every day with a little ESPN show called First Take. It's a great way to wake up, get yelled at 7 in the morning, if that's what you're into.
10 in the morning.
10 in the morning. Excuse, I don't even know what time it comes because I don't watch the show. I watch Sports Center that early in the day. Okay, I want to know what's going on in the games, not hearing people scream at each other. But there's a big change coming to First Take, Cole, and I know this one's going to hit you hard because Molly Karam has stepped down. Molly Karam, as of yesterday, is no longer with ESPN.
I think you just saw a little tear come to my eye. Is somebody cutting onions in here?
I mean, it's ESPN. They're going to replace her with another mega hottie in like 2 seconds.
I don't know if I'll watch anymore.
She's not going to be Molly.
I don't know if I'll ever watch again.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
Look, I know this might come across as shocking. I actually like Stephen A. Smith. I really do. I think he's entertaining, but yeah, I mean, we all watch First Take because of Molly.
Yeah, and this is a car crash is entertaining too. That doesn't mean it's good quality coverage.
It's good. I love Stephen A. Smith, and I really loved Molly and what she brought to the show.
Yeah.
Brought to the show, right?
Yeah.
That's my analysis. It is a sad day, man. Is she going to be? So she's completely not left First Take. She's left ESPN.
ESPN. So
Gotcha.
Here was her statement. She posted this on. It looks like it's got a little check mark on it, so I assume it's Twitter.
Okay.
Now that the news came out earlier than I intended and not in the way I hoped, to my First Take family, after much reflection, I've decided it's time to close this incredible chapter and step away from First Take. Hosting this show has been one of the greatest honors of my career. Every morning, I had the privilege of sharing the desk with some of the most brilliant, passionate, and entertaining voices in sports, and with all of you, the best fans in the world. I'm so grateful for what this journey has given me: lifelong friendships, unforgettable memories, and the chance to be part of something truly special. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for welcoming me into your homes. Stay tuned. Smiley face emoji. With love and gratitude, Molly.
So stay tuned. That's good news, right?
It means there's something coming down the pipe.
Good.
Maybe. Do you think Molly's going to leave for another network?
So, look, I want to say this the right way. I don't mean this disrespectful. It's going to sound disrespectful. I don't really care, but I'm going to say it anyways. She's not starting her own podcast because, again, no disrespect, people aren't tuning in to hear what Molly Karam has to say. They're just not.
But every show needs a Molly Karam. Every show needs essentially the net in the middle of a tennis match.
Yeah.
You need something that keeps the show grounded, that will call out members of the show for going too far. Because, I mean, look, it's like anything in life. You start kind of towards the middle, and then if you want to get attention, you have to go more and more and more out into the extremes. And that's what Stephen A. did. Stephen A., if you go back and watch his clips from like 10 years ago, he wasn't screaming at people all the time. That's not how he performed on his show.
Yeah.
It just became that over time.
I'll say this. I want to be very clear. I think Molly did a really, really good job on First Take. Being that host, because she essentially, while it was Stephen A. Smith's show, she was the host. She's the one that brought it in, sent it to break, kept them on track. And look, the reality of it is she had a tough job. When you've got Stephen A. and Marcus Spears and Dan, all these personalities, somebody's got to keep that train on the tracks.
Got to play referee.
I think she did a great job. I'm just saying, like, let's say, for example, we say, okay, where's she going to go now? I don't think if Molly Karam starts a podcast tomorrow talking sports, I don't think it's going to do great. Now, if Molly Karam's in a similar situation on another network, or if she's in a similar situation on another podcast, I think it could. Podcasting is paying just as good, not just as good, but podcasting's paying pretty good too nowadays.
I mean, could you imagine the thought of Molly Karam joining? Well, couldn't now because she's not with ESPN anymore. Joining the Pat McAfee show. Because
that's on ESPN.
I know, right? That's what I mean. So it's going to have to be some show that's on Fox or some show that's on another network or a podcast that's got huge numbers because they're going to have to pay her, right? She's not going to be cheap.
No, she's probably making pretty good. My only concern with that, Diesel, is what, and I'm not saying like ESPN's the only show that gets watched, but if she goes to another network and maybe she doesn't care about ratings, her salary is probably the most important thing to her, and it should be in terms of
probably time off, work-life balance.
Sure.
I don't know if she has kids. I assume she does. So
my point is, Diesel, I don't know if she will have the platform on another on another network that she had on First Take. She had a big platform. I mean, First Take, if you go look at the ratings, they're number one. They're ESPN's number one show for like a decade or more. She had a huge platform. Everybody knows who Molly Karam is. Mm-hmm. And maybe to your point, maybe going to another network pays more, better work-life balance, whatever. That's completely her prerogative, right? However, I just don't know that she's going to find a bigger platform than what she was on. Maybe I'm wrong there.
Here's what Stephen A. had to say. This was his this is how he led his own show, the Stephen A. Smith Show, not First Take, yesterday. Quote, "To say I'm quite sad about it is an understatement. Molly is a friend. Molly is a coworker. Molly is somebody that I've leaned on many occasions in the past, and she has done when it comes to me. We've been partners on the show for the last 10 years, and a lot of times some of these things happen. It's just uncomfortable to see." He mentioned that there's a contract dispute. So this is all over money. Yeah, he says the details, quite frankly, are none of y'all's business. It's not as if I know all the details. It was a contract negotiation that was going on. ESPN certainly did not want to lose her, but in the end, she made her decision to walk away from the show. So maybe she made a push for some extra cash. ESPN said, "Nah, we're gonna leave you right where you are," and she said, "Okay, I'm gonna walk."
So
maybe she's already rich. Maybe she's got investments in all these other businesses, and she doesn't really need ESPN for the money anymore anyway.
So from what I could find, her base salary at ESPN was reportedly between 500,000 and 600,000, which, by the way, is not a lot of money.
It's not really walking away money.
Not a lot of money for people who are sitting across from her making more than anybody else at ESPN. So some sources do suggest a figure closer to 1.5 with a new deal and agreements and performance bonuses and things like that. She had a very, very high profile role. And I mean, very high profile. So I think she was, in my opinion, I think she was worth probably what she wanted from ESPN. I will tell you this, from a entertainment standpoint, Diesel, like this morning, I saw it. Watching Stephen A. Smith try to bring it in the same manner, in the same way, it's kind of awkward. That's not his role. That's not what he does.
Right. She was the facilitator. She was the point guard.
Right. And watching him in that role is kind of strange. So I think I'll say I think it's a bigger loss for ESPN than people realize.
I'm thinking, where could she go? Maybe Sunday Night Football on NBC? Maybe Fox Big Noon Kickoff Show? Because, God, that show needs some help, right? It's hard to watch. Who's tuning in and watching the Fox Big Noon show?
I'll tell you this.
Not Game Day.
I've never chosen Fox Noon over Game Day. Never will. I don't know.
Urban Meyer's ornery ass, always wearing sunglasses on TV.
I guess Ohio State fans, Diesel and Notre Dame fans choose that. But let's be honest, that show sucks compared to Game Day. The everything. These guys, you've got cool players in but no, it doesn't compare. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where she goes from here.
Boss Man Fat says she's got a huge platform. All right. Boss Man Fat, that is unnecessary. Not incorrect. It's just unnecessary. Why would you say such a thing? If you, Cole, if I suddenly didn't show up one day, like Molly Karam, why would you think that I stepped away from the show?
If you didn't show up?
Yeah.
The lottery's tough. Like, you don't really, people just don't like the odds of that happening. I'd say no. If you stepped away from, and I didn't know about it, is what you're saying? Like, I had no knowledge.
Just blindsided. Didn't know it was coming. Tolos, you can play along as well.
I'd say it was probably, God, that's a good question.
Are you telling me it's hard to guess the things that I care about this much?
No, I would say you had a better offer, and you had to make a quick move. I'm struggling to think of an answer there. I would say maybe that, like, if it happened, bam, all of a sudden, two things: either you had a better offer and you had to move on it quick, or something happened and you ran a van into a parking garage. You know,
hey, it could happen to anyone. Happened to Drew Brees, by the way. Now that we're on the subject, Cole's making fun of me because last year at the ACC kickoff game, Clemson, Georgia, I didn't even make it into the game because I tapped our station van on the roof of the parking garage. It's a very low parking garage, very tall van.
Yeah.
Since then, Cole, I've heard multiple stories. One was the LSU truck driver who hit the
I saw that.
Hit the top of the thing coming out of Clemson Stadium. And Rich Eisen was talking about Drew Brees when he did the exact same thing in like a tall built-up SUV going into whatever Saints parking garage.
I will say that the reason it was hard to answer that question for you is you're a company guy. You've been here for 4,800 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, really, what, 17, 18, something crazy. So it's for somebody who's been here that long. I'll tell you right now, I won't be here that long.
I've been here since the Roman Empire was doing its
thing. That's a long time. And when now, like if it were somebody like me who has only been here, full time a year and a half, it'd be different because people leave, right? Things happen. But
I'd say your business blew up. You got
hope so
in a good way. Like you got some
not
huge
like
contract,
kaboom, right?
or something's going on with the family. You're a very family oriented guy. So positive.
Well, I hope the business does blow up. That'd be not literally,
right?
Right. I hope it does blow up, and maybe that'd be a day I have to step away. I hope that not for your sake, not for the Tolo's sake, but it would, or I hit the lottery. By the way, nobody hit last night. It's up to.
It's up there again quick.
I think it's getting close to 500 million.
I'm not greedy. This is me putting it out there to the heavens, to the gods, right? I don't need the whole thing. I would just like a piece.
Well, you won't get the whole thing, unfortunately, because Uncle Sam's going to get a lot, right?
Right.
You have to get a lawyer involved.
Meaning I don't need to be the sole winner of the lottery.
You just want
I could just take a piece. Yeah. 10%.
See, I'm the 10%. Opposite. I want the whole thing.
I mean, I want the whole thing, but I don't need the whole thing. This is me trying to show the gods that I am not a greedy man.
Nope, I am. I want every single bit of it. I don't want to pay a lawyer. I don't want to pay anybody. I want the whole dadgum thing.
Wait. Buckeye Mike says Mega Millions is the big one now. Powerball just hit.
Oh, did it?
Did it? I don't know about that.
Sorry, Mike. I don't play it. I don't play it a lot. I really don't. What else is happening out there in the sports world? Diesel Hour, Daily Wire's next. Well, Diesel, we do this segment every single day on this show. It is our Daily Wires, a look around the sports world to see what's happening. A tough one last night. Brooklyn defeated Hub City 2-1 at Fifth Third Park on Tuesday night and captured the South Atlantic League Championship. But nonetheless, Diesel, great crowd last night. So many Spartanburger fans there. Great atmosphere. Nonetheless, a great season, inaugural season for Hub City.
I saw the highlight, Cole, of the ground ball out to right field that scored one and then was overthrown over the third baseman's head. Now, unfortunately, the confines are pretty tight there at Fifth Third Park. The ball bounced right off the wall, right back out. When that happened, did you say, oh, God, he should have gone for home?
Well,
because that would have been a really aggressive
The ball
play.
bounced right in front of, third base, kind of over toward the pitcher's mound, and the ball just bounced the wrong way there. It was just unfortunate.
Which would have been a game-tying
run. I thought that one right there could be the one that gets the Spartanburgers over the edge. It was a tough break, though. The Atlanta Braves won twice on Tuesday. Not once, but twice, believe it or not.
Hey.
6-3 and 5-0 in 10 innings last night, and the Atlanta Braves have won 3 straight. Better late than ever, I guess. Hurst and Waldrop on the mound for Atlanta tonight. Today, 4:05 p.m. first pitch. Also, in the major leagues, Cal Raleigh broke a record held by Mickey Mantle on Tuesday. That's impressive enough right there, while matching another held by Ken Griffey Jr. What company for a single night, right? Seattle Mariners catcher hit his 55th homer of the season in the second inning against the Kansas City Royals, sending him past Mantle's mark for a switch hitter that had stood since 1961. Then Cal Raleigh hit his 56th in the next inning, matching the club record that Ken Griffey Jr. first established in 1997 and matched the following year. Pretty impressive there.
That's not fair, because in Mickey Mantle's day, they didn't have glutes like that to help power the ball over the wall.
No doubt. Also in baseball, Shohei Ohtani hit his 50th home run of the season against the Phillies and now ranks third in home runs behind Cal Raleigh and Kyle Schwarber. Ohtani has now achieved this milestone for the second consecutive season, that is 50 home runs. He also made history as the first player to hit 50 home runs and strike out 50 batters in the same season. That's pretty impressive.
Does it feel like we're not paying as much attention to Shohei this year?
Well, I think he's eased back into that pitching role, and that's been a storyline. I will tell you this, to answer your question, maybe not, but I was starting last night. And here's why. The Braves suck, right? They have sucked all year, so I hadn't been as engulfed with baseball until last night when I watched Dodgers-Phillies. Now that we're close to postseason, my interest as a baseball fan peaks again. But again, that's bad because the Braves were so bad that I really didn't follow much during the regular season. Philadelphia Eagles tackle Jordan Mailata has had enough of the media narrative that the team won Sunday's Super Bowl rematch because of the tush push. In an interview with 94 WIP in Philadelphia on Tuesday, Mailata said that it is incredibly disrespectful to impact the Eagles' defense and special teams disrespectful to the impact, that the Eagles defense and special teams had in the 20-17 victory at Kansas City.
Don't be showing all the love to the offense.
That's right.
Talk about our defense. Talk about our special teams.
Diesel, we briefly mentioned this yesterday. Tom Brady did not violate any NFL rules by wearing a headset in the Raiders coaching booth during Monday Night Football. The NFL said Tuesday in a statement that Brady, a minority owner with the Raiders and broadcaster, is prohibited from going to a team facilities for practices or production meetings, but the former quarterback is allowed to sit in the coach's booth, according to the league. They said there are no policies that prohibit an owner from sitting in the coach's booth or wearing a headset. NFL spokesman Brian McCarthy said in a statement, Brady was sitting in the booth in his capacity as a limited partner.
So help me out, because I wasn't watching that game. He was wearing his over-the-air broadcast headset.
No.
He was talking to coaches down on the field.
He was just wearing a coach's headset. I don't know. I don't know if he was communicating back and forth, but he was just in the coach's box
Does that mean he had to step away, like take his head? Like
he wasn't on the call.
He wasn't on the call. Okay.
Yeah, he wasn't on the call Monday night, so he was fully devoted to the Raiders Monday night. So
interesting.
Sunday he was calling a game. Monday in a coach's box. I think it's kind of interesting. I really do. A couple more for you real quick. Florida Gators associate head coach and running backs coach Jabbar Jalouk has been suspended for 3 games by the SEC due to his involvement in a pregame altercation before the matchup against LSU. Let's see. We talked about the Heisman Trophy. Aaron Jones of the Vikings has been placed on the IR. Former UFC champion BJ Penn was arrested earlier this week for the 5th time this year. He had violated a court order about his restraining order filed by his mother. And Molly Qerim abruptly resigned from ESPN on Monday. Diesel, the most devastating news of the day.
You know, with this situation with BJ Penn, he is a trained weapon, right? He is a fighter, and he has violated a restraining order multiple times for having been physically abusive to his mother. How many more times are they going to let this guy out on the streets? Because that seems like a time bomb waiting to happen.
Well, that seems like what we do as Americans is we let people back on the streets.
I can't believe they did that.
Yeah. Let them back on the streets.
When we come back, it is time to start the game that is sweeping the upstate. Our Week 4 upset picks begin at 4 o'clock. Don't send it yet. Don't send it yet. Wait till you feel that little bump on your wrist if you're wearing a smartwatch, or just wait till it says 4 o'clock and then send it. Tolos. No prizes, no awards, just bragging rights. And right now, Cole, you and I have nothing to brag about. Nothing at all. The Wire to Wire Upset Picks Challenge, brought to you by Ingles Markets, is officially open. Phone lines, 844-326-3663. That's how you can call in or text in to get us your pick. And again, if you know the rules, we need your name, the game, and the spread. That's what we need from you. Tolos, get to it. Cole, are you thinking about some games? I know yesterday you were pretty on the fence. You were kind of all over the place. Have you maybe narrowed one down a little bit? No. I've already made my pick.
I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. I might not make a pick. I might wave the white flag and surrender. I'll have one here in a few minutes, but I'm down, man. I've got to find some confidence somewhere.
Okay. Well, if you don't know this challenge, and that means you have just found this show within the past 7 days, we appreciate you finding Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. This is a challenge that lasts the duration of the college football season, week to week. Your goal is to find a game where you think the betting underdog will win the game outright. So an outright upset. If you pick a game that does have an outright upset, then you get the number of points that team was an underdog by, added to a rolling season long tally. So you pick a 5.5 point spread, you get 5.5 points. If you pick a 17.5 point spread, you get 17.5 points, with a little caveat. And if you have points, which you and I don't right now, hopefully we will after this weekend. If you have points and you get a pick wrong, you lose a point the next week. And if you don't make a pick at all, you lose 2 points, which means you can't just hit for a couple of biggies and then disappear for the season, hoping that all is going to be all right and your lead will hold. You can't do that, because every week you don't make a pick, you lose 2 points, but you can't fall below 0.
Just so you know, I just made my pick. And I mean, just now, I found the one that my heart desires, and I found my pick, Diesel. I will go ahead and put it out there, for all the Tolos, because I know there are a lot of Tolos that don't want to pick the game.
They need to know what not
to pick. So here we go. My upset pick for this week, ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking the Tigers of Memphis. I love the Tigers of Memphis. I love their colors. I don't love their city.
When did you ever see a blue tiger anyway?
You're going to Saturday. Give me Memphis over Arkansas plus 8.5 points. The Tigers will upset and outright win the game against the Razorbacks on Saturday. You like that?
No, I don't.
Oh, thanks.
I don't.
Thanks.
It's a road game in the SEC in
Arkansas is not good.
Thousands and thousands of. What do you mean not good? They were rolling the first 2 weeks of the season.
No. The Tigers got this, man.
Hey,
I'm going with Memphis.
So if you are thinking about getting us your upset pick, remember, give us your name, your game, and the spread. For example, these are the Tolos who are doing it right. JT in Greer says South Carolina plus 10.5 over Missouri. Buckeye Mike says Illinois plus 5.5 over Indiana. Leprechaun of Lyman wants Syracuse plus 17.5 over Clemson. And WVU fan 214 is taking West Virginia plus 13.5 over Kansas.
Wow.
How about that? I looked at that game yesterday.
Which one?
The West Virginia over Kansas, but it's a road game, right? It's at Kansas, and they're coming off a bye.
And the thing that worries me is West Virginia's coming off of a big win. A little bit of maybe a trap game here. I don't know. We'll see. I like West Virginia. I like country roads. I like their coach. I like everything about West Virginia. I think most things about West Virginia. So that's mine. I'll go Tigers of Memphis. I do like the West Virginia pick, though.
They are coming in like crazy. And Tolos, I am copying and pasting all of these in a Google Doc. Dan B does a phenomenal job of keeping track of all these things. We all owe Dan B a huge debt of gratitude that can't be repaid.
Who has a better song to sing at their stadium than West Virginia? Think about that. That's a good question to throw out there. Like Sweet Caroline's nobody's song.
Right. And it's not really about North Carolina at all.
And it's more of a baseball song, really.
Right.
So I mean, this West Virginia might be the king of college football in the sense that they have their own song that everybody sings.
There's not another one that
feels
like it was purpose-written.
T-Swizzle, good one.
What did he say?
Dixieland Delight
for
Alabama. Right. I mean,
I guess, but like Dixie applies to all the schools in the South.
Yeah, that's true. And I would say Dixieland Delight's up there, but I like Country Roads, man.
T-Swizzle is going Tulane plus 10.5 over Ole Miss. Let's get to the phone lines and take Delvin's call. Delvin has done very, very well in this challenge in years past. Delvin, do you have it in you again this year for another big push? Who do you like this week?
Well, I got last week right with Old Dominion. And,
yes, you did.
Cole, great minds think alike. I'm going with Memphis plus 8.5 over Arkansas.
Bam! Let's go, Delvin.
What was it about this game that you like so much, Delvin?
Don't forget, Arkansas come out with a physical game against Ole Miss, and Memphis played like an SEC team, man. So I'm going with, and it's something about Memphis, man. And
I've never heard somebody say Memphis plays like an SEC team.
This week we are, baby. This week,
that?
8.5. Delvin, you're the man.
Yeah,
appreciate you.
My call, guy.
Thanks, buddy. Me and Delvin, we're ride and die, baby. Ride and die with the Tigers of Memphis.
Here's a quick look at the upset picks standings for you Tolos who wonder where you are. There are a blue million Tolos on the board. Delvin has 7.5 points. He is all the way back there. Not to make you feel bad, Delvin, but you are all the way back there in 56th place. But it's going to be hard.
That does feel like way back there. By the way.
Well, you and I are farther back, Cole. Dave Mosley is in the lead with 42.5 points.
Jeez.
Gamecock Tim has 40.5. Canes Transplant has 35.5. My wife, F.U. Ashley, has 23.
That's insane.
She's a Furman alum, by the way, so that's what that stands for. Tolos, if you want to know where you are, hit up the Twitter page, hit up our Facebook page at the Fan Upstate. It's pinned as the top tweet on our Twitter, and it's posted, of course, as of day before yesterday on the Fan Upstate Facebook
How did
page.
we forget Rocky Top?
Oh, my God.
How did we forget that? Texter from the 850, you're right. You're right. We forgot. We dropped the ball on that one. We pulled a CD Lamb. We dropped the ball. We apologize. Rocky Top's up there with Country Roads. There's no doubt. Steve Squared is taking Liberty plus 8.5 over JMU.
Gotcha, Steve.
Coach AJ, Tulane over Ole Miss. Bonefish Girl, Tulane over Ole Miss as well. Wow, that's a been popular one so far. West Virginia fan said, you have to attend the game there, man. Talking about West Virginia, says amazing
atmosphere. Do you have to wear a helmet? Because I hear they chuck batteries up there.
You might have to. You might be.
Smart,
you might want to wear a helmet.
I mean, the best thing is if you could just wear one of those helmets that already has two beer holders on the side.
Oh yeah. How about the helmet I sent you the other day? The one that opens.
Oh, the Cowboy. Yeah. So you sent me a video of a Cowboys fan who has an automated helmet, an Iron Man helmet, painted up, beautifully painted up, by the way. Great job by the artist, whether it was himself or whoever.
Yeah.
And the thing has like the mask part that pulls away and then raises up to allow him to drink his beer.
It's like a motion sensor that when he brings his beer up, it opened. It was crazy.
That's
I've never
amazing.
seen that in my life. Welcome to 2025.
To be an engineer and a drinker. What a time.
Tolo Steve got in. He took South Carolina over Mizzou plus 10.5. I thought that one would be really popular today. Yep. I really did.
There's a few. I think there's one or two already taking that game. But Tolos, get us your picks. 844-326-3663.
There's a bunch coming in.
I learned 2 years ago, Cole, when I did really well in this challenge, and I got away from it last year, and I got away from it for the first couple weeks of this season. I learned to pick the smaller games because Vegas not really sure about these teams. They don't really do as much research on them as they should. I, Cole, am going with the East Carolina Pirates at home, plus 6.5 against the BYU Cougars. I think with as much of a party town as Greenville, North Carolina is, all those Mormons are gonna be too busy clutching pearls of what's going on out in the tailgate lots to be able to focus on playing football.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a big one. And how many points is that worth?
6.5.
So
it was worth 7.5 yesterday. I liked it more at 7.5, but it's fallen down to 6.5 today.
A little bit conservative there, but you know what? You got to pick those. You got to. I mean, I went 8.5. So I mean, I'm not too far behind you.
I just want to get on the board. You know, I want to get
man.
back on the board. I hit my week 1 pick for 3 points, and then I've gotten 3 in a row incorrect since then.
And that game is where?
That game is in Greenville, North Carolina.
I mean, ECU's not bad. They're not bad.
Well, and East Carolina has a senior quarterback. BYU has a freshman quarterback in his first true road game start at BYU. So he's playing on the road for the first time as a true freshman.
You know what I do like? I found this
but
out
he's probably
about
40 because, you know, at BYU, you don't start college until
that's true.
Yeah, until you get your AARP card.
I did find interesting for those who, like Delvin and I, took the Memphis Tigers to upset Arkansas. Memphis is covered in each of his 3 games this year, so they're cover kings right now. They're 3-0. Take that or write that note down if you like to put cheese on some games over the weekend. However, what I don't like, I see the Razorbacks having a 72.8% chance to claim victory per the money line's implied probabilities. So we'll see. Statistically, I'm looking at the side-by-side comparison. Arkansas is the better team. Statistically, they average 47 points per game thus far compared to Memphis's 37. Memphis, however, has not given up a lot of points, only 11 per game. It's a stretch. I'm honestly surprised it's 8.5 and not more like 12.5. But again, here's our problem. We've got to get on the board, but we've also got to get on the board in a significant manner to where we don't lose those points the next week.
Yeah, that's true. Texter wants to know, are the standings posted? Yes, Texter, the standings are posted at the Fan Upstate on Facebook and on Twitter. On Twitter, like we said, it is the pinned tweet. On Facebook, I don't think you can do that, so you have to scroll back just a little bit to find it. We had another texter ask, if I start 0 for 8, do I have 0 points or -8 points? You have 0 points. You cannot fall below 0. So if you had 1.5 points, for example, and you didn't make a pick at all, you fall back to 0. You can't go to -0.5 point.
So here's what I want to know, Diesel. We a couple of weeks ago did really, really well with our numbers and the Upset Picks Challenge. And today, it's Wednesday. It just opened literally 14 minutes ago. I realized that, but we've had a significant turnout. But I really, really want to put this message out there on the airwaves today that we've got to really up our game this week. I want to see what we can break. I want to see what record we can break, Tolos. We need your help. So if you enter the challenge, we appreciate that. We said this a couple of weeks ago. Here's something fun to do. Get your family, get your wife, get your kids involved. And then you can, have a little bragging right going on, a little like Diesel and his wife do. Ashley's beating up on Diesel right now.
Badly.
So get your family involved. Tell your friends about it, those you work with, those you talk to, those you talk sports with. Do us a favor. Get them involved in the Upset Picks Challenge, and hopefully they'll become a Tolo. Because all of you out there who are sending your picks in, you Tolos, we appreciate you. Just like Tolo Phil just got his pick in, Wyoming, 13.5. over Colorado. We want to continue to grow not only the Upset Picks Challenge, but the show, the audience. Tell us, or tell the friends, tell your friends, tell your family about the Upset Picks Challenge. That's the great way to get them involved, because then they'll be listening to try to see where they are, who they're picking, and just how bad Diesel and I do every week at this challenge.
We have one texter who just picked the same game I did. He said East Carolina over BYU for 6.5. He says he's going by the name of D-Fig.
D-Fig.
We got some good names in the challenge this year. We got Puppy Monkey Baby. Looking for We Oughta Baby Eats a Boy. We haven't heard from him yet, but he always gets his
such
pick
a weird
in.
Name.
It's from that commercial. You remember that commercial?
Yeah, that's right.
But hey, this is really important for me to put out there.
Yeah.
Tolos, you want to be in this challenge every single week. You want to get your pick in every single week because it costs you points if you don't pick at all. But this is very important. If you are currently sitting at 0, maybe you're like us and you stink at this challenge and you haven't gotten anything
or
right.
Or you're
yet.
a second half team. Say it that way.
That way too. Maybe that's all it is. You're a second half picker.
That's right.
Which means if you down the stretch, start picking some good games in a row, and you get on a little bit of a heater. We've got like 7 Tolos that have hit all 4 weeks in a row, which seems really, really unlikely that they're going to keep hitting. They're going to fall back. If you go on a heater of your own late in the season, you can catch up. You can make big strides catching up late in the season. So don't say, oh, I'm too far back. I don't think I can win this thing. There's like 3,000 people playing this challenge.
And there's a lot of weeks
hard
left
to
too, right?
win this thing, but you can play well in the challenge. You can work your way up into that top 10, top 25. That's where you want to be.
Yeah, and the main thing is you have bragging rights over Diesel and I. You know, I mean, what do we know? Us idiots don't even have a point. I mean, what are we doing?
Jay Butane says his wife is kicking his butt in this challenge as well.
Yeah, I told him.
He's like, don't feel bad.
Well, I texted him back, and I said, you might need to call authorities. He said, my wife's beating me. I said, hey, man, look, call 911, right? A lot coming in. Again, 844. If you've never entered the challenge, text the show right now. We want a new Tolo right now. Before we run to a break, we want to see one new Tolo that's never played before. 844-326-3663. Jess just got in. She went Rutgers 2.5 over Iowa. I like it.
Does Jess have any points? I think she does. I think I saw her name on there, which means she has points and her better half, Dan, does not.
Oh, Dan doesn't. He didn't either? Are you serious?
Yeah, he doesn't.
Me, you, and Dan, all 3 of us?
I think so. We're all pulling up the rear, so to speak.
Man. Technically, let's see. This text comes from maybe Dan B. Technically, just Jess is kicking my butt by 3.5 points. Let's see. Tiger Pal Rachel. What's up, Tiger Pal Rachel? Good to hear from you. She says, going with Maryland over Wisconsin at 9.5. Just trying to get on the board. We're with you. Kane. Look at Kane going big. Kane's going Syracuse.
That's not a terrible pick. I mean, come on.
Kane's going Syracuse plus 17.5 over Clemson.
Kane, make sure when you send your text in, you give us the whole game. Obviously, we know that Syracuse is playing Clemson, but give us the whole game, by the way.
Diesel, important note. You might see this during the break. Texter says, I didn't realize there was a JT from Greer, so I'll switch my handle to JTez, JTEZ.
Okay.
Either way, we'll try to get that noted. Let's see. Tigers Dakota. I think that's a new Tolo. I think that's a new one. Illinois versus Indiana, plus 5.5. Indiana. Diesel, have you heard Tigers Dakota yet? I
don't think so.
That's new. I think that's new. I love that. Good name there. Tolo Panther Boy goes Coastal Carolina over South Alabama, plus 15.5.
Okay. Coastal's not good. They got beat 38-0 by East Carolina last.
And I don't know who picked them last week in their upset pick, by the way. That was a dumb pick.
You did.
Dumb pick.
You did. You thought that teal turf was going to do it for you.
That was so dumb. So dumb. Diesel Tolos coming up next. We are going to be joined for the very first time ever by Matt Park. Who is Matt Park? He is the play-by-play voice of the Syracuse Orange, going behind enemy lines with Matt Park next. Let's talk about the Orange, the Syracuse Orange, and their matchup this weekend. Syracuse, Clemson, and get a perspective from Matt Park, the play-by-play voice of the Syracuse Orange. Matt, I know, man, you are week to week engulfed with Syracuse and what they do on the field. But how surprising has it been for you to see the 1-2 start that Clemson has gotten off to as you now prepare to call the game between Clemson and Syracuse on Saturday?
Well, it's surprising, but the schedule has something to do with it too. I would imagine if a lot of teams, if they played LSU and Georgia Tech, might run into a loss or two. So that's maybe being a little underestimated here. The Troy game, to see them trailing for as long as they were was a bit unusual, more than a bit unusual. It was alarming, but I think there's still a lot of season left, and we'll see what they have this week.
Matt, a lot of similarities between Clemson and Syracuse as far as what they want to do, which is throw first, run second. Steve Angeli, he's been spectacular through 3 games so far. How good has he been so far this season against tight coverage that he's going to face against Clemson?
I don't know if he's one who's really jamming it in there against, I think this is very, the philosophy of this offense, a lot of them, but this one, they'll advertise it as such. It's very much a take what the defense gives kind of approach. So that's why there's options and RPO and a lot of different ways to distribute the football, and it goes to a lot of different people. He did very notably on what turned out to be basically game-winning touchdown against Connecticut in the corner of the end zone, really stick one into a tight spot. And he's been pretty good. I think his receivers have made plays for him too. He's been, I would say through 3 games, it's interesting because he's, had his difficult moments too, and the fans wanted him out and that kind of thing. But he's leading the nation in passing, and it's worked out all right for him so far. So it's been kind of a mixed bag. I think Steve would be the first to tell you that. But when the game has mattered the most, he's been very good.
We're talking to Matt Park, the play-by-play voice of Syracuse. Matt, a lot of Clemson fans, a lot of people here in the upstate of South Carolina this weekend will see Steve Angeli for the first time. Obviously, you won't. People who follow Syracuse won't. How would you describe Steve and how he plays the quarterback position?
My, observation, and we're all getting to learn everybody right along with everyone else, in terms of how much the roster turns over from one year to the next. Angeli wasn't even on the team as of the spring game.
Wow.
And didn't practice with the team in the spring. So he comes in, he's played a little bit at Notre Dame, which went to the national championship game last year, and he played a couple of important series along the way. And that's about it in terms of what we've known about him. The coaching staff's known him for a long time. He played in high school for the brother of the Syracuse quarterbacks coach. So there's a familiarity stepping in the same way that there was for Kyle McCord. They'll be compared to one another for obvious reasons. They're not quite the same. Angeli's not quite as big, first of all. But my feeling on him is, again, so far so good. I think he's been really, really good. He's calm. Has every throw been perfect? No. He's had a few tips at the line and that type of thing. Came out against Connecticut, and he's missing a few high and all that. And then he dominated Colgate as an FCS opponent. So I think everybody's really anxious to see how his game travels going on the road into one of the tough environments in college football. But I like what he's been so far. He's been a leader on and off the field, and the indications are all very good that he could have a very excellent season.
So, Matt, would you say that familial tie is the biggest reason that Steve Angeli ended up at Syracuse? Because, clearly, back-to-back seasons with transfers coming out of Ohio State and Notre Dame, Syracuse is becoming a little bit of a destination for maybe some underappreciated or underutilized quarterbacks to make a name for themselves. Was that the biggest reason why he chose Syracuse?
I don't know about the big S, but it certainly was a factor. And I think what you're getting at is absolutely right. Jeff Nixon, to me, is probably the most under-discussed aspect of Syracuse's success in the last year plus. His system really works. Their offense has been prolific for the most part. I guess maybe a couple of exceptions here and there over a 15-game span. They led the nation in passing last year. Kyle McCord set the ACC record. They spread it around to all these different people, both not maybe so much in the run game. They run it okay, not great, okay, and they spread it around to a bunch of different receivers. So I think the system and the fact that Kyle swooped in for 1 year and showed that it can be done is probably the first thing. And then the idea that Steve would have a shorter learning curve, maybe knowing the system or at least knowing the people that he would be around helped. Fran Brown is really impressive in terms of what he's the way he connects with players, the way he's up the talent level with his recruiting here. So they have they have a deeper field of wide receivers and pass catchers here than they've had a long time. A good experienced tight end, 2 quality running backs, and a bunch of promising freshmen there. So I think that it was more than just hey, I kind of know this guy, but that certainly can't be, counted out. And the total package was appealing to Steve.
Talking to Matt Park, the play-by-play voice of Syracuse football right here on the Fan Upstate as Syracuse prepares for their matchup Saturday at Clemson, noon kick in Death Valley. Matt, let me ask you this, man. Going back to that August 30th loss against Tennessee, a very good Tennessee team, 45-26. From what you saw, and then what you also heard from Fran Brown after the game, what did Syracuse do? Obviously, they lost the game. But what would you say they did in that game to give Syracuse fans out there a little bit of hope that maybe if they can figure some things out, if they can tweak some things, they can be a team that can go compete with anybody?
I'd probably just sort of fight back. They were never really in the game. It was 17-0 pretty quickly. And they didn't lose by 100. They lost by whatever it was, 19. So they came back and kind of hung in there. They did some things. They ran the football, I think, maybe a little bit better than people expected. Justin Willis is a pretty good combination of size and speed. He missed the last game with a minor injury. I would expect that he will play Saturday at Clemson. And he's good. I think he's not as good now as he's going to be down the road. They throw to the backs quite a bit. Will Nixon, the other running back, is a threat coming out of the backfield. And they go empty sets quite a bit. So there's some different things that they throw at you. So to me, that they just kind of looked representative as the game went on and didn't fade was promising. But they didn't tackle well enough, and they allowed a big play over the top. Some different things that got them buried early in the Tennessee game.
Matt, I want to go a little big picture here with you. Fran Brown, 10 wins in his first season at Syracuse. Obviously, he just got there, but that is going to attract a lot of attention from other programs that would love to be able to get 10 wins for themselves as well. We know that Syracuse is willing to be patient with coaches, and Dino Babers was there for 8 years, even though he didn't have the most success that they would have wanted him to have. What do you think, a couple years down the road, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, do you think Fran is really interested in staying at Syracuse for a long time? Because I think it'd be good for college football for another team in the Northeast to have a strong foothold.
Yeah, he says he is, and he kind of goes out of his way to say it. So that, to me, builds kind of credibility or belief that he may be inclined to stick around, just because nobody's had a gun to his head or been that adamant. I mean, I understand that, what you say in your introductory press conference, and in my mind, it's not fair to hold that against the coach forever. That happened to a previous coach here that, claimed Syracuse was his dream job, and then he went on to the NFL, Doug Marrone. I hold no ill will towards somebody for doing that. I think if you can get to the National Football League and that's your profession, more power to you. I don't think Dino Babers and Fran Brown don't see themselves as pro coaches, so that's a bad example in their case. But they could be tempted. Certainly Fran could be tempted by SEC money or something like that down the road, and I think both parties may have some decisions to make and that kind of thing. But I think for right now, he's absolutely pouring everything he's got into this program. He's been doing a great job. I think he's very transparent. So if the time comes when he's got other opportunities, I think a couple of things. One, you're certainly going to know it. I don't think he's going to sneak around about it, number one. And then two, he'll still have put Syracuse in a better position because you're going to have to win to get and keep that kind of attention. And then there's buyout implications and all of that. But, he's got to keep doing it. And let's just see how it kind of plays out. But I don't see him going anywhere in the short term.
Matt, from what you've gathered about Fran Brown, does he use things going into a big game on Saturday to motivate the team? For example, Syracuse comes in as a 17.5-point dog on the road. Is that something in your mind that Coach Brown could use to maybe motivate the Orange on Saturday?
Probably not. I think he motivates more on a do the right thing every day kind of basis. And, hey, we happen to have a game on Saturday that is going to be the next measuring stick or the next challenge, however you want to phrase it. Mm-hmm. Be the best that you can be today and tomorrow and the next day and all of that. It may get mentioned. Certainly if they win, it's easy to come back after that when you win and claim everybody was wrong and all of that. I don't know that he's a big drum up motivation guy, and it's not a revelation that Syracuse is a double-digit underdog against Clemson. That's pretty much been the case the whole time they've been in the conference, and the all-time record between the teams would indicate as much, and that kind of thing. So I don't know that that's particularly newsworthy, and we're not inside the walls of the locker room very often, but I doubt that's made a major issue this week. It's not like it needs to be said. I think everybody's aware of it.
Matt, does it surprise you, though? I mean, to see Clemson as a 17.5-point dog?
No.
Gotcha. And I'm sorry, I said Clemson is a 17.5-point dog. I meant Syracuse is 17. Yeah, I just didn't know with Clemson, off to the 1-2 start, if that surprised you.
No, I mean, obviously, and I've heard you guys, and I've heard some, Clemson, South Carolina area people on local radio up here and stuff this week, and I watched the marathon press conference and that whole deal, and I understand. I understand what it's like. It's what you guys are talking about is what we talk about a lot during the basketball season that people just can't comprehend when you're not, a title contender or something along those lines. It happens. It's 2 games into the year. You lost 2 games to ranked teams. I think over the long haul, Clemson's probably going to be just fine. How does it work out this game? I don't know. That's why they play the games. But it certainly doesn't surprise me that a team 10 minutes ago that was thought to be a national title contender is ranked by double digits against Syracuse. So, but Vegas knows what they're doing, but again, the games aren't played on paper and they aren't played in Vegas.
Talking to Matt Park, play-by-play voice of the Syracuse Orange. Talk to me about this running back room. I know that it's not the strong suit of this team. Steve Angeli is throwing the ball all over the field. But in our time watching Clemson so far this season, we've seen them have some fundamental tackling issues that haven't been as crisp as they should be. Going down this running back roster, do you see anybody that really kind of has the ability to make a team that's not fundamentally sound pay?
Yeah, I mean, I think Yasin Willis is a very good running back. Now, he has not had the explosive runs of late that we've kind of come to know. The last two Syracuse lead running backs are in the NFL. They were really good players. LaQuinn Allen's a rookie with the Jaguars. His trademark was jack of all trades. He would play every down. He would block, catch it out of the backfield, get tough yards. But he didn't run away from people the way his predecessor did. Sean Tucker, who's now in the Buccaneers, would have 40, 50, 60-yard runs. Nobody that Syracuse has had since Tucker has had the explosive, run away from people type plays. So these other guys get it in smaller chunks, but they're dependable. I think Yasin Willis looks the part of a big-time running back. Been maybe a little slow to get started this year, but he ran for over 90 yards against Tennessee. That's legit. Will Nixon is the son of the offensive coordinator. The first play of the first two games, they throw it to him out of the backfield, and he picks up big chunk yardage. We'll see over longer sample size to what degree he's a contributor. And then the guys behind him, particularly the freshman running backs that got in late against Colgate, they do project to really like those guys because of the speed they've got involved. So right now, is it Walter Payton and Herschel Walker back there? Not right now, but they don't want to discredit the running game. I think they want to spread the ball around. They've got a lot of different options. The wide receivers are good. The tight end is good. And then if you spread the field, then you can run and put the game away. That's what I would understand to be the approach.
Matt, safe travels. Have a great call this weekend, and I hope you have a good visit to the Upstate. We really appreciate your time, man.
All right, looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Absolutely. Matt Park, the play-by-play voice of the Syracuse Orange. Really good stuff there for those Clemson fans that maybe just tuned in and missed it. Go back on the free Odyssey app. We'll have that interview for you again in the 6 o'clock hour in case you missed it. But some good stuff there, man. Some really good stuff.
He did name off some big-time running backs. I'm surprised he didn't say Jim Brown and Ernie Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Because they've had a few, really. Larry Zonka, too. Floyd Little. They've had some really good running backs there at Syracuse. When we come back, Cole, oh, God, I can't believe this is something we have to talk about in 2025. But there is a vicious rumor out there that a certain somebody who played football at South Carolina, who's now with the Carolina Panthers, is faking that lovable thick accent. XL's accent through the years and how it's changed. We'll play you some audio and laugh about it next. Cole, have you ever heard of a field of study called dialectology?
Not until just now.
Dialectology is the study of accents. You know, the way words are pronounced from place to place to place within a common language.
Okay.
Well, I've seen this popping up over the last couple of days. Some people believe that Xavier Legette's accent is fake, that it's not real. You know that Liverpool Mullins accent that he's got, that he's really kind of poured a lot of his personality into over the last couple of years. Well, I don't know, Cole. I think it's a little harsh. But most of the time when you're around different types of people, you lose your accent. It doesn't thicken. And XL's accent has thickened over the years quite a bit, like a roux that's been cooking for a while. This is Xavier Legette in 2020.
I feel like I did all right. It could have been a better season, though.
Does that sound like Xavier Legette now?
It does not.
No, it does not.
It sounds like his brother.
Right.
You know, it doesn't sound like the Xavier Legette that we know.
Right. XL 2020.
I feel like I did all right. It could have been a better season, though.
Here, XL 2021.
As of right now, I feel like I'm doing good with staying healthy. I haven't had any problems, like any issues with being hurt.
It was right now because it's just getting a little mouth a little wider.
Yeah.
It's starting to come in. The
Draw
draw's
that
coming
more.
in.
Yeah.
Here was XL in 2022.
And we all just buying in, and we all trying to have a great season. And the
Whoa.
way how the offense is going, they're giving everybody a chance. So we all trying to take ownership to our opportunity.
Trying to give everybody.
Okay, there's where it hit.
That's where it's coming
That's
in.
where 2022, I mean, it hit. Bam.
2023.
Man, I love it, man. He giving everybody the opportunity to put the ball in their hand, man. And if we do that, if we keep doing that, we keep striding forward.
If we keep doing that, it keeps driving forward.
I love it.
It's getting thicker and thicker. He's approaching Boomhauer territory. And here's Xavier Legette in 2024.
Oh no, man. I woke up ready, man. I got a call right after I got dressed. They was coming to pick me up at 9:30 in the morning. I told them I'm gonna be ready.
What? What did you say?
Yeah, I'll be ready. That's
What
what he
did you
said. God, man, that is crazy to hear that.
And guess what? It gets thicker.
Okay.
This is Xavier in 2025.
Ever since he got here, Corey Thornton, 31. Yeah, he been doing his thing. Every time I go over against him, I tell him, I like what you doing. Like, sometimes he'll try to be like, that ain't my bag here. I'm like, man, you good. We playing ball, man. As long as you going hard, you gonna make me go, but you gonna make me better. So,
Wow.
It's like all vowels. Again, 2020,
I feel like I did all right. It could have been a better season, though.
2025.
31. Yeah, he been doing his thing. Every time I go over against him, I tell him, I like what you doing.
That is insane.
Right?
You know, I saw that clip of the 2020 interview. I think John Whittle, the Big Spur, asked him a question. He answered, and it sounded like a really, 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 really young XL. No accent. You know, I mean, you could hear it a little bit, but hearing the year after year after year, that's, I was going to say eye-opening, but I guess ear-opening would be the correct term. Is he faking it? No, I don't think so. I think it's just growth. Like,
I think he's getting comfortable with himself.
maybe
some people have a thick accent. They know it, and they try to mask it a little bit.
So.
When they finally leave the small town, they don't want to sound like they're from a small town anymore.
College, trying to fit. Yeah.
Normally, like I said, when you're around other people, you lose your accent. His is getting thicker and thicker by the year.
That is insane, isn't it?
I don't think he's faking it, though.
I don't think he's faking it. That it is interesting.
But if he is, he's getting endorsement deals out of it. Come on now.
Down.
Remember Justin Wilson on TV? That guy's accent was thick as could be. People loved him for it.
It's insane to hear that, XL. We still love XL, even though he's not playing good football this year. Diesel, we haven't done one in a while. Let's have a hot seat conversation, do a little welfare check and see who's home, who's been fired, who's about to get fired. That's next. Well, there are some coaches out there who are secure in their job. They don't have anything to worry about. They're winning, all is well, and life could not be better. There are also coaches out there who might be on borrowed time.
Ooh.
And, Diesel, there are also coaches out there who are already enjoying the benefits of a buyout. Example, Deshaun Foster and Brent Pry over the weekend. We do a segment sporadically, occasionally during football season. It's a good old welfare check just to see who's home, who's still at their university, who's been canned, and who's next to be canned. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this Hump Day edition of the show. Phone lines are open. Hub City Spartan Burgers text line is open as well. We've got Bill Bender of the Sporting News joining us in 20 minutes from right now. We love Bill. He's fantastic. He joins us every Wednesday at 5:22. But Diesel, these are tough conversations to be had, but sometimes in life you got to have those tough conversations. And we've already had two coaches as of September the 17th who have had to have those tough conversations. Does that surprise you that we've already had two coaches fired?
It's early.
It's early.
It's early, but hey, I mean, you want to get out in front of it and start gauging interest of possible candidates. There's no time like now to start figuring it out. Here's what's going to happen, Cole, is you're going to have a coach fired before the season so that they can hire somebody for the next year. Now that's getting way out.
No doubt. But here's the deal, though. We all know that when you do fire somebody, like Deshaun Foster's been fired from UCLA, like Brent Pry's been fired from Virginia Tech, like it's almost a double-edged sword in the sense, Diesel, that, you got rid of the guy that you wanted to get rid of, but now all of a sudden you're having to rebuild. You're having to retool. And we all know that in this new college football era, it's a little bit easier nowadays to rebuild and retool with NIL and with Portal and Rev Share.
Yeah.
But you're still having to start over, and that's a challenge.
It's not an enviable place to be. You've got now rosters for UCLA and Virginia Tech that are already thinking about where they want to go in the transfer portal. I'm sure they're already having those back channel conversations, even though they're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
They're having those talks. But I guess the idea here is that if you can get a quality replacement in place, and that's going to be tough to do if that person is a sitting head coach somewhere, but there's a lot of guys coming in from the NFL ranks, if you can get a quality head coach in place as soon as possible, maybe you retain some of those guys and you have a player that says, ooh, I know that guy. He was head coach for the Cleveland Browns or whatever.
Yeah.
He was a position coach for the Chargers with Justin Herbert. Maybe I want to stick around, and see what this guy can do.
Tolos, want to hear from you. Who do you think's next on the borrowed time list, per se? We know that Deshaun Foster and Brent Pry have already been fired. We're having ourselves a welfare check in this very segment. Again, if you just tuned in, we appreciate you doing so. 844-326-3663 is the way you can get in touch with the show. Let's go to the phone lines where Tom in Somerville wants to chime in. Tom, who is on borrowed time in your mind? Who's next?
Sunbelt Billy. He's next. He's next.
Yeah.
But, Dave, you hit the nail on the head with that last comment about the back channeling. What people don't understand is your portal recruiting, it does not start in October, November, or December. It starts in September. And all those conversations are being had now. And so the teams that dominate the portal in December, those classes are sealed, signed, delivered come November. So all those back channeling conversations, those are happening as we speak right now. So, all these schools like Virginia Tech, UCLA, those players that, have some potential, they've already either started those conversations or in those conversations to find their next home. So, that DB who entered the portal beginning of the week for Virginia Tech, he's already, quote unquote, heard from 35 schools in 3 days. Those conversations are happening. And, to me, it's what makes the sport fun and entertaining outside of the on-field play is those back channel conversations that happen.
Wouldn't it be more fun, though, Tom, if those conversations were out there in the public and we knew, think about it like this. If there's 1,000,001 sites, there's the Rivals and On3 and 24/7s and all of them. If we can know who's contacting them while they're in high school, why do we not get to know who's contacting them while they're in college? Because that's valuable information.
It is. And, Diesel, I'd be happy to start a podcast with you about this topic because we can get rich quick. And
let's do it.
It would be a must listen episode if you could get that type of information. And that type of information's out there, but you got to dig for it. But I wanted to call and give you my upset pick challenge. It's Wednesday, and I got it. I am going to go with the one and only Bill Belichick this week.
Wow.
They're playing a little bit better. UCF has not looked very good. We all know you can't trust Scott Frost against Power 4 competition. And I like Bill Belichick on the road this week as a 6.5-point underdog.
Wow.
Interesting. And UCF is without Sean Clark, line coach, who was in the hospital after apparently suffering a stroke. Don't quote me on that to be 100% accurate, but that's what I have seen out there. Obviously, prayers to Sean Clark. He's an App State guy, and he did a lot of good things at that program up there. But I'm sure they're operating with a little bit of heavy hearts in that program down there at UCF right now.
Exactly, and I hated to see that. I saw it, and that's what honestly made me choose North Carolina.
And
there isn't a lot of games to really reach for this week. And when you have a situation like that, and as tough it is for everybody involved, you kind of want to go with the opposing team there because they've had less distractions. So give me Bill Belichick. I will probably regret this decision, but this is what I'm going with this week.
And the most important thing is, Tom, Tolos out there who have yet to get their upset pick in should listen to you because, correct me if I'm wrong, you have hit 3 weeks in a row. Is that right? 4 weeks in a row?
Yeah, I haven't missed it this year, knock on wood. I haven't missed, Brandon. They haven't been real reachers. They haven't been a real big upset. But I'm going to reach a little bit more this week, and hopefully it's right.
Tom's operating like a soup on a slow simmer.
Yeah,
he's just a couple of points here and there. Tom, did you happen to catch that last segment where we talked about Xavier Legette's accent possibly being fake?
I did not hear that.
Oh,
but I can guarantee you this: that accent is 100% real, and it is who he is.
Well, I only asked that question because on the text line 844 fan phone, T Experience says, "I think Tom's accent is fake."
Wow.
Do you care to respond?
All right. If this is fake, then I don't know what's real because this is me. This is me. This is who I am. And I will say this, if you want to talk about accents, go type up on YouTube Jaden Quaintance from the University of Kentucky, the basketball player. Now, that is an accent that no one believes is real. It's a 6'11", 250-pound man, and he talks like he's a 6-year-old kid.
Wow.
It is hysterical.
Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate you, Tom.
Appreciate the phone call. 844-326-3663. Several texts on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line answering the question of who's counting down the days, who's next. The Experience says Napier is next. Also, Tolo Steve agrees. He says Billy Napier from Florida will be next to go. RJ gets in on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. He says, I think Coastal head coach Tim Beck is on the hot seat after a 2-1 start. Coastal Carolina offense is non-existent, and he made staff changes. He has made staff changes since taking over in 2023, but it's only gotten worse. Are we already to the point now where Tim Beck's seat? I mean, he hadn't been there that long, Diesel.
I mean, without Grayson McCall, you're playing quarterback for you, your production is bound to drop. Grayson McCall has had quite a bit of that same element that makes Diego Pavia so tough to bring down.
Yeah,
he had that creativity in the play, and somehow it always friggin' worked for him. And I hated it because my team had to play him quite a bit. But I tell you, if taking shirtless photos on the beach with the Coastal Carolina dance team didn't get Tim Beck fired, I don't think a 1-2 start is going to get him fired.
It's interesting. We'll see how long this continues. Tolos, if you just tuned in, a little welfare check, seeing who's home, who's on borrowed time, who's already been fired, hot seat conversation. We know that Deshaun Foster of UCLA and Brent Pry of Virginia Tech have already been canned. A couple of texts on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. April Mosley on the YouTube stream says Dow Loggins. I don't think we're there quite yet.
Get him out of there.
Just a couple of games in. How about, I'm going to throw a couple at you, Diesel, and throw a couple at the Tolos as well. Billy Napier, we'll get to him. Obviously, he's up there, but
he'd have to win a national championship to come off that hot seat.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Is Mike Gundy, in your mind, Tolos and Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State, is Mike Gundy on borrowed time? I just don't know that when you look at 2026, Diesel, if you really feel confident. They lost 69-3 to Oregon. He's had ups and downs. He's been there for 21 seasons, right? He's been on the brink of trouble a couple of times, but it kind of just feels different that longevity is coming to an end. And man, to bring back Mike Gundy, what are you telling your donors? What are you telling your fan base? What are you telling the fans and the community and the students and the people who really support this football program? I think all roads come to an end, and 21 seasons is a long time, and I think Mike Gundy's time has come to an end.
I'm going to say something that may be a little controversial. Okay. I think Mike Gundy is Dabo Swinney without the new spring flavor. He's got a lot of seasons where he's won double-digit wins. 2010, 11, 13, 15, 16, 17, 21, 23. Each of those seasons, he won 10 games or more, right? He very rarely has had losing seasons. As a matter of fact, his first season, 2005, and 2024 are his only two losing seasons at Oklahoma State. He's been a very good coach at Oklahoma State. I know that he doesn't have national championships, but Oklahoma State feels like that program that now that Texas and Oklahoma are gone, could and should be rightfully running that Big 12 conference.
Do you feel that way, though, with Mike Gundy, that they should be running the Big 12 with Mike Gundy? Because I just don't have that confidence. I just don't feel confident in that, Diesel.
I think he peaked too early. If 2015 Mike Gundy was the head coach at Oklahoma State right now, they'd be running that conference. But he's not. And you go back the last 5 seasons, 3 wins in 2024, 10 in 2023, 7, 12, and 8. So he's been kind of up and down, but he's been more up than he's been down for Oklahoma State.
It just seems it's like it's getting bad now.
It also begs that question, well, if you move on from Mike Gundy, who are you going to get that's better? I mean, you could probably do pretty well. I'm not saying that. I don't say that to be facetious in the way that people say that about Clemson. Well, who are you going to get that's better?
I think you could get a lot better than Mike Gundy. I really do. I don't think Mike Gundy's a terrible coach. I don't think that, Diesel. But I do believe that everybody's time is eventually up.
Sure.
Everybody's time eventually ends. And look, you want to be known for having this guy stick around for 100 years, who's average, great years, bad years.
Well, the biggest thing he's known for is I'm a man, I'm 40, and that was 20 years ago.
It's 20 years ago. So you're talking about a coach who's knocking on the door of, 60, 65 now. I don't know. I just think that this could be it for old Mike Gundy. He's, again, been good, but we'll see.
For specificity's sake, he's 58, so it was 18 years ago. Excuse me.
Let me ask you this. This has been texted in a lot already. on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, and we've brought it up. By the way, texter from the 316 did get in with Tony Elliott, ? We'll get to that. But I think the glaring one is in Gainesville, right? So, Diesel, I think it would be surprising if Florida pulls the plug during the season. But if things do go poorly, I remember you talking about it last year, and we talked about it on this show, if Billy Napier could be canned during the season, right? Brutal. And I mean brutal stretch of games coming up. Texas A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Florida State. That's all on their schedule, by the way. Napier, Diesel, I don't think he's going to offset the Week 2 loss to South Florida anytime soon. We felt this way last year at this time, and then a good ending kind of it gave us the Bryce Young effect, right? That all of a sudden this guy might be kind of doing what Bryce Young did, finishing the season strong. Now all of a sudden we believe in him. But does the story really end differently with Bryce? Does it really end differently with Napier? I don't think it does. I think it ends the same. I think it's just a matter of time.
If you're Florida, though, and Billy Napier, as good as he was at Louisiana, isn't getting it done in Gainesville. If you're Florida, are you willing to put forth the kind of money that it takes to go get Dan Lanning out of Oregon? Are you willing to put up the kind of money that it takes to go get Curt Cignetti, even though his personality is not a fit, but he's a good football coach, right? Are you willing to put up the kind of money that it takes to go get the elite of the elite coaches out of other conferences, or are you going to try another coordinator hire out of the SEC? I mean, that's who you have to get if you want to win the SEC and if you want to win national championships. You have to be willing to put up that kind of cash.
You do.
Or you're just hiring somebody and hoping that
No,
works.
I'm with you. Look, no disrespect to a guy like Curt Cignetti. No disrespect, but to me, this is just my opinion. It doesn't make a ton of sense to fire Napier and go hire Curt Cignetti.
Right. I'm just thinking of like who you could. Maybe the answer is Fran Brown. I don't know.
No,
he's had 1 year at Syracuse, but outside of that, they've already tried the Brett Bielema experience in the SEC at Arkansas. Illinois is good. Right? Illinois is back, but they're not going to go get Ryan Day out of Ohio State.
Maybe Lane.
Maybe.
But
you're not. Look, Lane's got all those same resources at Ole Miss, and he's not winning titles there. So why would you go get Lane?
I think ultimately in a perfect world, you would see a Dan Lanning as a perfect candidate. But then again, you might have to, this sounds crazy, you might have to settle for a guy like Lane. I don't know that firing the guy is always the right answer. DJ Lagway was horrible last week. There's no doubt.
But
just
look at it like this. Mike Norvell, awful. He was going to get fired. And then all of a sudden, hit on a portal class, bam, Florida State's back. Sam Pittman at Arkansas, supposed to be fired.
Yeah.
Bam, hit on a portal class. He's back. I mean, it's such a crapshoot. It's such a roll of the dice.
It is.
It's hoping that the right things line up at exactly the right time. It's a hard thing to do.
It really is. But we'll see. A lot more to get to. We'll bring it this segment back and get to some pro coaches as well who may be on the hot seat.
When we come back, Cole, one of our best guests every single week, probably the smartest guy who joins our show, and I'm including us on that list, Bill Bender of the Sporting News on the Fan Upstate next. Well, from coaches on the hot seat to coaches who are ready to jump out of their seats, we talk to Bill Bender of the Sporting News. Bill, let's start right there with the big old monkey in the room, Dabo Swinney. Is he gaslighting us or playing chicken with us after he said 8 conference championships in 10 years? Is that not good? And he also said, I'm not done. I'll go coach somewhere else. Your reaction to that audio from earlier this week?
Overreactions everywhere, probably from Dabo, probably from us, probably from, they lost to 2 good teams. They lost to 2 good teams that'll probably be in the playoff at this rate, the way Georgia Tech is playing. Unnecessary in some ways. I think Dabo's an outstanding coach, and I like to remind people that, I don't know if I've said it on your show. I think what he's done at Clemson is the best story in college football in the last 50 years, because you don't build national championship superstores at places like that. You might have had a dream season like they did in the 80s, obviously, and been solid, but he built them into we're going to go beat Bama type place. And I don't know if they've been that the last couple seasons, and maybe that's the root of what we're getting at.
I think it's fair, Bill. And for the record, we talk about it a lot, obviously, being in Clemson's backyard. I have been on record criticizing Dabo, but I also don't believe that Dabo Swinney should be fired because of a 1-2 start and because of ups and downs. I think the biggest gripe, though, that you've seen, that we see on Twitter, on Clemson Twitter in the past couple of days, is just the Dabo Swinney rants that seem like a little bit of complacency, that maybe Dabo doesn't have the same fire. Maybe Dabo doesn't want to adapt. I know he's gotten a couple of guys out of the portal. I think, and tell me your thoughts on this and where maybe my thoughts might be wrong, is that a lot of Clemson fans, while they appreciate what Dabo's done, they are very quick to remind Dabo that you're the same guy that built this standard as high as it is.
Fair, but I think some of it just really comes down to 2 positions for me. Maybe spoiled from the standpoint you go from Taj Boyd to Deshaun Watson to Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
And how many schools go from school record guy to 2 first-round picks and a number 1 pick at that? I make comparison up here in Columbus at Ohio State, where they went from Dwayne Haskins, who they chose over Joe Burrow, and it was the right choice, to Fields, to Stroud, to McCord, to Howard. They've got a line of quarterbacks there, and sometimes you don't always hit. And then the receiver position, where's T. Higgins? That type guy. Wesco's got that kind of talent. I think he's got that kind of future in mind, but it's early for him compared to where they were when they had like T and Sammy Watkins and some of those guys that were, T should have been a first-round pick.
Well, Bill, to that, I would say Alabama has done that. Ohio State has done that. Other programs have. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do. And even in the case of Alabama, you could say they were winning national titles with people who fans were calling game managers, guys who weren't even supposed to be that good, and they were winning titles with them. And I know that's the Nick Saban effect, that you can pack so much talent around a game managing quarterback. You could go out there and win national titles. At this point, Bill, what kind of performance by Clemson this weekend against Syracuse would surprise you, good or bad?
Losing. I don't think they'll lose. I think they're the better team. And, I think they'll bounce back and work themselves into this conversation of, there's the other one that, like I said, if they didn't play LSU and played just an also-ran group of 5 school, they'd still be 2-1, and I think the freak-out factor would be less, knowing that they lost on a 55-yard field goal, or the kid just made an awesome, Aiden Berman, awesome kick. But, yeah, that would surprise me a lot. Anything over like a field goal, I think they'll come out and play, and they've been challenged a little bit, and Dabo's tried to challenge that. Some of it, we talked about it last week, is trying to manage these preseason expectations. But I'll tell you, whether it's a team, and there's about 5 or 6 quarterbacks that I had in my top 10 that aren't performing like top 10 quarterback. So either I was really wrong or some of these guys need to play a little better. It's probably I was wrong. I'll never pin it on a college kid.
Bill, you've seen a lot of football. And my last Clemson question for you for now, unless I think of another one. Cade Klubnik, Garrett Riley. A lot of conversation about those two, third year together. And that match just hasn't been the dating app match made in heaven that a lot of people thought it would be in year 3. In your mind, is it more on Cade Klubnik? Is it more on Garrett Riley? What have you seen that's actual proof of maybe as to why this team has gotten off to a rough start?
Probably both, because the passing game's inefficient. And there's one stat I look at on Pro Football Focus more than anything else. And, it's not perfect. I get it's more than just numbers, but take Dylan Raiola in Nebraska, for example. Right now, on throws between 10 and 19 yards, he's 75%. Now, granted, they haven't played tough competition, but 75%, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Super efficient in that range where you've got to be super efficient. And, that's something I don't know that Clemson's passing game's real efficient right now. And the running game's hit or miss. And, listening to the game I listened to a little bit on the radio. That drive where they scored at the end of the half, it just took a lot of work to get to the end zone. You know what I mean? Like, it used to be easy for Clemson. ETN run or, long pass and they're in. But Georgia Tech really made them work and be patient. And when you do that, your quarterback has to play more efficient.
At Bill Bender 92 on Twitter is where you can go find him. We invite all of our Tolos to go and give Bill a follow. Virginia Tech and UCLA firing both of their coaches triggers a 30-day transfer window. Some people are looking at it like it could be a doomsday scenario where half the roster exits mid-season. But it seems, Bill, like there's a lot of checks and balances on this. Obviously, the academic side of transferring mid-semester, with having to go somewhere that actually has a roster spot available now. Can you kind of go into sort of the facts of what really happens in this 30-day transfer window?
I mean, guys can transfer, but I don't see it happening a lot. Maybe you preserve a year at this point because they've only played 3 games. I was a little shocked. Not at the firings themselves. I mean, UCLA, you kind of saw coming after they lost to New Mexico. But I'm going to tell you something random. New Mexico plays really hard under Jason Eck. Even against Michigan, they were playing hard. And I know that's cliche. I know exactly how it sounds. But it's something you just watch on TV and you're like, man, they're playing Michigan and they're playing, all out right now. So I didn't expect them to fire a guy that played there. And then Brent Pride, maybe that one was coming. But, it's all about fit. And we talk about all that all the time in college football. Fit matters over everything. And, that kind of, not to bring everything back to the last conversation, but Dabo fits at Clemson. Dabo's not going up to UCLA and coach because fit matters all the time.
So to that point, who are the right guys in your mind for programs like Virginia Tech and UCLA?
Probably Danton Lynn. If not Danton Lynn, maybe a guy like Tosh Lapoy, a couple defensive coordinators on the West Coast. I mean, the obvious guy for Virginia Tech in your backyard. I mean, if they wanted to go after Shane Beamer, but then that becomes the question of, other than being for Frank Beamer, Virginia Tech a better job right now, South Carolina, and I think the answer is no.
Yeah.
I think South Carolina and the SEC, with the success they've shown over the last, couple years, they're a factor. They were 9-3 last year. I think that answer is no.
It's interesting, Bill. We'll have that conversation a lot more, I'm sure, when the season's over. When you look at this weekend, some big matchups, thus far, obviously, in the past couple of weeks that we've seen. But we had this hot seat conversation in the last segment. When you look at this weekend's matchups in your mind, who do you think has the most pressure on them as a head coach, since we're having that head coach conversation?
Well, it's like those hidden games. So like if Wisconsin were to lose to Maryland, I wonder if that gets hot for Coach Fickle. I didn't expect them to beat Alabama. But, I mean, if you keep losing games, that's one I don't know that they can lose. And, Coach Fickle, I really like Luke. He's a great guy, great dude. Just a couple of years ago, the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year when he was at Cincinnati. So that's one to watch. And obviously Billy Napier, that's such an easy I could probably repeat what I said on here a couple weeks ago, but I mean, they're playing Miami. The schedule's brutal. I did think they compete. Again, they were playing hard against LSU. They just didn't execute and had several turnovers. So how hard are they going in another tough road environment against Miami? It's not going to be easy.
Bill, Cole and I earlier this week absolutely raved about this new review process in ACC broadcast where we can hear the head official talking to the network replay booth. What have you thought about that? And do you think that's something that might be coming to other conferences as well?
Well, I mean, I like it for us. I don't know if I like it for them. That would amp the pressure. You got to get that thing right because then it's just meme material when you're wrong. So I think that's something to keep in mind. But certainly anything that gives us more access and things that we can react to on the game and the thought process that goes into some of those calls, I think it's a good thing for the sport.
Bill, you mentioned it, and we spent a lot of time talking about it a minute ago with Billy Napier. This is a brutal stretch coming up for Billy Napier at Florida in the next, rest of the season. We all know the conference they're in and how tough it is week in and week out. Where does Florida make the right move in your mind? Is it keeping Billy Napier? Is it moving on? What's the right move in the mind of Bill Bender?
Let it play out. Right? Like, let it play out because, he did this last year in November. They battled. We didn't think they were going to win a game in November last year. Now, most people, when you listen to talk radio down there and analysts and those kind of things, it sounds like his days are numbered. But again, who are you going to get? Are they going to go take a run at Dan Lanning? Everybody seems to think Dan Lanning's the answer to their prayers, but I just don't know that he's leaving Oregon. Why would he? I mean, Oregon has the third best record in college football since he got there behind Ohio State and Georgia. And they're in the Big Ten. So I don't know if there's a reason for him to leave. And then you could start rumors with any number of guys, like ranging from Lane Kiffin to John Summerall. And I don't know that any of those guys are the answer either. Florida has pressed reset quite a bit since Urban Meyer left, and it just hasn't worked out.
Bill Bender, the Sporting News with Vanderbilt. Bill, you got Clark Lee, Diego Pavia, an amazing defensive line so far through their couple of games. What's the ceiling for this Vanderbilt team this year?
Well, I think, America's going to adopt them if they keep winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll be like Indiana, but I think even more because of Diego Pavia. And you saw the things with Theo Vaughn last week, and he's obviously pretty mainstream. And, because of their history as kind of the doormat of the SEC, people will jump on that bandwagon, especially if they're undefeated and wherever they're ranked when they play Alabama here in a few weeks. So here's what I'm looking for out of Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech this week. These are two schools that obviously had a huge weekend. They're both 20-plus point favorites against Temple and Georgia State, respectively. Do they just go out and take care of business? Because sometimes when they always call it reading your press clippings. When you do that, that's when those upsets happen. And by the way, Georgia State beat Vandy last year. So there should be plenty of motivation for them.
Bill, who do you trust more to turn it around? In the mind of Bill Bender, I'm going to give you Cade Klubnik and I'm going to give you Arch Manning. Not talking about team success, but just personal success. Who do you trust more to turn it around?
Well, I think both will. I'm going to answer it this way. I think in the short term, probably Cade because he's played more football. But, for Arch, it's that accuracy thing. You've played a lot of football. And Cade has played a lot of football. Arch obviously hasn't played a ton as a starter, and it shows. And, I was just talking about that intermediate range. Like, Arch isn't hitting in that range at all. He's like 7 of 21, I think, on throws like that. It's not good enough. So that has been a little bit of a surprise that they weren't able to go out and just stomp UTEP. So that will be a big reaction this weekend. I think, honestly, it's not even about it's like Arch Manning has to play well against Sam Houston because they're going to play Florida in a couple weeks. And that's where these narratives will converge. We'll have Billy Napier on one side and Arch Manning on the other. Man, the hot takes coming from that will be wild.
Bill Bender 92 on Twitter is where you can find him. Bill, I don't know if you're a fan of numerology, but you are sitting in 92nd place. Bill Bender 92 sitting in 92nd place in our upset picks challenge with 2.5 points. Now, I don't want to put any pressure on you or sway your decision, but our leader has 42.5 points right now, Bill. So you got some catching up to do if you want to win this challenge over the course of the season. But who you liking, who you taking this week in the Upset Picks Challenge?
Who did they hit for 42 points?
His name is Dave Mosley. He has hit 4 weeks in a row. Every week he has hit in this challenge because we played week 0 also.
Yeah.
Have him come each week at Sporting is this way. Geez. I'm going to take Illinois. It's a small one, right? It's like 4.5.
I think so. 4.5, 5.5, I think.
I'll take, give me that 4.5. I'll take Bielema and Indiana. I think they're the better team. And that is going to be a fun game, which, college football in 2025. Who knew Illinois and Indiana, what we'd be talking about?
That's right. Bill, you're the best, man, as always. We appreciate the heck out of you. We'll talk to you again next week.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Bill.
No problem, man. Good stuff, as always, from Bill Bender. Diesel, Tom Allen also spoke to the media yesterday, and I scratch my head on what's going on with not just Clemson as a whole, but specifically the defensive side of the football. Tom Allen audio and why I'm scratching my head concerning this defense next. You know, we have had so much discussion, Diesel, about Clemson, the 1-2 start. Who's to blame? What's going wrong? Yada, 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 yada. And look, offense has their struggles. They do. We know that the offense should be a lot better than what they are, right? However, I just can't figure this defense out. I can't figure out how defensively you're just not more dominant. And I know they're still good. I know it's the first year for Tom Allen. I get that. But when you just look up and down this roster defensively, man, and you talk about the Peter Woods of the world and the Wade Woodaz, the Sammy Brown, Avion Terrell, Will Helt from Purdue, TJ Parker, DeMonte Capehart, I just scratch my head to figure out why this defense isn't more dominant. I've got this audio from Tom Allen, but Diesel, you remember the Shaq Lawsons of the world when Clemson's defense would just out-dominate you. I just don't feel like that's happening this year.
Yeah, and you really can't say that he just needs time to grow into this team because he was only at Penn State for a full season. Remember that. Yeah. He didn't have 5 years to figure it out and get things right and get the players that he wanted at Penn State. Look, I don't know the rosters that he had at Penn State. There were some dudes on there, obviously, but Clemson is loaded with 4- and 5-star guys.
They are.
This is walking in and getting the keys to a Ferrari, but putting 87 octane in it for some reason.
And T Swizzle brings it up on the YouTube stream. He says, "Where's all the first round defensive guys? You've got the guys, T Swizzle. You've got the players. They're
Could this cost some of these guys their draft stock?
We'll see." Here's what Tom Allen said yesterday, speaking to the media.
Of hey, every week you just continue to do things the correct way. You continue to evaluate yourself. You hold yourself to the standard of accountability, how you prepare, how you play, but sometimes plays come your way, sometimes they don't, based on how they're schematically attacking us and different things. So, but yeah, I'd like to see all those guys up front just take the game over, at critical times, and when you get late in the game and to be able to the TFLs and the sacks and just end drives and create takeaways and allow you to be positioned to finish like you want to. And so I'd say the same for the linebackers and safeties and the corners and the Tigers, guys that we feel like that are our best. But your best players, you want them to play their best football.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me is like these guys are so talented. Why aren't they taking the game over? Late in the game, that's what those trademarks, those elite Clemson defenses did. And when you have guys, Diesel, on the roster that are as good as what you've got in my mind, you should be getting to the fourth quarter and starting to take games over. They're just simply not.
Sometimes plays come your way. Sometimes they don't. He's clearly spending too much time around Dabo Swinney because that sounds like a Daboism. Well, sometimes it comes your way. Sometimes winning's hard. Am I wrong?
Well, I don't know.
I know. Yeah. I'm being a little obtuse here.
I just think ultimately it does make you scratch your head a little bit. Speaking of scratching your head, we got time for one phone call. Dewey wants to weigh in at 844.
Your head or scratching something else?
Let's see. Dewey at 844-326-3663. What's up, Dewey?
Oh, sometimes I scratch my head. Sometimes I scratch my butt. It all depends.
Thanks, Dewey.
But
as long as you do, as long as you scratch the head first, the butt second, you're probably okay. Oh God, I wouldn't do it the other way around.
Yeah, I'll try to do that. But anyways, I had to think about my upset picks, and I had to grab a few beers, and I started drinking. Then I started thinking about some stuff. And,
some drinking and some thinking.
And I'm gonna take a leap of faith here, and I'm gonna pick South Carolina over Missouri.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why.
Tell us why.
It ain't because I'm a South Carolina fan. It's because I see Beamer, unlike Dabo, show some accountability for that trouncing last weekend. I believe that he's going to have his team ready Saturday. I don't believe they're going to go out there and embarrass themselves like they did this weekend. And I don't even know what the line is. I think it's double digits, and I think it's ridiculous and harsh that Vegas and ESPN and the committee would disrespect South Carolina like that after having them in the top 10. Missouri's not that good of a team. So I think South Carolina's going to come out ready. I believe they're going to beat them. And it's going to be a close game probably, but I think South Carolina's going to come out on top.
Thanks,
All right.
Dewey.
I almost was going to go for Syracuse, but I don't think Dabo is going to allow that to happen.
Thanks, Dewey.
Oh.
There you go. There's your daily Dewey, folks.
Oh, boy.
Take his advice if you want. Take South Carolina on the road, the Battle of the Columbias.
Yeah, we'll
as they're
see.
in Columbia, Missouri this weekend.
Bold strategy, Cotton.
Cole, let's hear from the head coach that Dewey was just talking about there. What did Shane Beamer have to say in his weekly presser? We'll play that audio for you and react to it next on the Fan Upstate. Well, I don't know if a Shane Beamer press conference can deliver in the same way that the Dabo Swinney press conference delivered yesterday, because everyone is talking about that 13-minute tirade at the end of Dabo Swinney's press conference, which I did see this on Josh Pate's show, Cole. He was talking about this, as everyone has been. And he said, let me remind you that the question asked of Dabo Swinney was, is there an offensive play you'd like to have back against Georgia Tech?
Yeah.
That was the question that launched into the 13-minute tirade about, if you're tired of winning, I'll go somewhere else. I'm 55. I got a long way to go. I'm just getting started. I'm just now good enough to be the head coach at Clemson. All that business.
And it felt like more than 13 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I wish that one of our esteemed colleagues that are on that Clemson beat would have stood up and walked out on Dabo. It's like, you're not going to yell at me like that, Dabo. You are not going to yell at me like that. I don't give a rip who you are. I don't care that you're making $7, $10, $12 million a year. You're not going to yell at me like that. I'm going to get up and walk out. I'm going to prove that you're being a jerk. I heard Dabo say, well, I got a long memory. And I'll remember everybody. That to me sounds like I'm taking notes, and anybody who is not complimentary of my program, I'm going to remember you, and I'm going to hold it against you. I would have got up and walked out, or at least I would like to think that I would have, but I wasn't in the room at the time, so I don't know what I would have done. So, Shane Beamer, you've got some big shoes to fill when it comes to batting this thing back and forth with your counterpart up in Pickens County. Let's hear from Shane Beamer, Cole. You've got the audio clips. Can you tee these up and give us a sense of what Shane Beamer had to say?
It's one clip.
Oh, it's just one.
One clip. Yep. So we'll listen and react.
All right. Good to see everyone. Excited to get back on the field for practice Sunday, but then certainly today. New week. Got a big challenge going out to Missouri. Coach Drinkwitz has done an amazing job in his time at Missouri, especially here the last few years. The level of success they've had, what they've been able to do and accomplish is really impressive. Got a lot of respect for the way they do things. They have their system, and year after year, they replace players, but the system doesn't change, and they continue to operate efficiently and at a high level. And this year is no different. You look at all the great players they lost off last year's team, and they look even better here in 2025 so far. The new quarterback that's come in from Penn State you see why they were so excited about him. The running back that's come in from Louisiana Monroe is a super talented back to go along with other talented running backs in that room. The wide receiver core, obviously they brought back a lot and added a transfer from Mississippi State, portal additions on the offensive line. They're operating at a really, really high level offensively right now, and really make it a challenge on teams to defend. Special teams wise, they always do a great job and present challenges. This year is no different. And then defensively, certainly they've always been disruptive, and this year is no different. How disruptive they are. They've got guys that can rush the passer. They've added pieces from the portal in Wilson, the defensive end from Georgia, and Trotter, the linebacker from West Virginia. Some portal additions in the secondary to go along with the talented group they had coming back. So it's a veteran group on defense, ton of juniors and seniors. Offense, it's operating at a high level, and then really dangerous special teams. So we've got a big challenge this week, but that's life in the SEC. Last week was that way. This week is this way. Next week will be that way. But as a competitor, you love that. And we've got a lot of competitors in our program that are eager to get back on the field and go compete again this weekend. Questions?
Opening statement there from Beamer. Obviously, again, most opening statements from most head coaches are the same, complimenting the opposing program, talking about how tough it is to win and how tough it is to win in the SEC. And it's the same old. But, I think you – not trying to read too much into it, I do think you hear Beamer, and I'm not saying like I'm a Beamer expert by any means. I've heard Beamer really, really happy. I've heard Beamer after a win. I've heard Beamer after a loss. I've talked to Beamer one-on-one in person. I've heard Beamer a lot, Diesel. This Beamer doesn't sound full of jubilation. This Beamer sounds a little bit maybe like he understands reality for what it is. If they had a really tough week, I don't know what the injury news, the latest is with Lenoris, but he just doesn't sound overly excited about this matchup coming up against Mizzou.
You know, this is interesting. We questioned whether or not, without Brady Cook, and last year they had Prabula, if Missouri could keep it up at the level that they had. And man, out of the gate, they have put up 61, 42, and 52 in their 3 games. Now, all of them have been at home. How has this happened? They start the season, Cole, with 4, 5, 6 straight home games.
You're kidding me.
Central Arkansas,
Oh, my
Kansas,
word.
Louisiana, South Carolina, UMass, and Alabama all come to Columbia, Missouri right out of the gate.
So are you telling me they then go on the road for 6 straight games?
One of these has to have been at a neutral site. Here's what I can't figure out. Where was this Kansas game played? Where was that game played? Because it only lists 4 true road games: at Auburn, at Vandy, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas. And there's no way that they get 8 home games
That's
in
crazy.
the season.
That's crazy.
1 or 2 of these has to be a neutral site, and I'm just not reading their schedule correctly in real time. But no, they can clearly score, right?
They're a good team.
42 points against Kansas. They gave up 31 points as well. So they're beating the heck out of teams they should beat the heck out of, and they had a little bit of a shootout against Kansas. That's kind of who this Missouri team is. We don't really know a ton about them. You got to believe that South Carolina has better defensive talent than does Kansas.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the South Carolina defense hasn't looked particularly great so far. This is going to be
it's a big game, man.
This could be a blowout if South Carolina's defense doesn't grow up a lot this week. This could be another blowout.
Yeah, I don't see that happening again. We'll give our official predictions either tomorrow or Friday on the show. I just ultimately think, to kind of the point of what you said, I really, really, really do believe that South Carolina is better than what they showed Saturday night. I think they're better than that. I don't know that was them at their worst or best, but we shall see, right? So Beamer now opens it up for questions to the media.
Shane, is there any kind of update on Lenoris or any other injuries?
No, we have an injury report for an SEC game that we release on Wednesday nights.
So, very quick, Jack Veltri touched on that yesterday, Diesel, when he joined us on the show. David Cloninger, Post and Courier, asked him, hey, any update on Lenoris? Nope. Wednesday nights, we'll get a report, and that's what we know. There have been reports out there that Lenoris practiced today. Again, not anything credible in terms of the sources, but those are reports. So we'll see. Obviously, that's the biggest news. Here's what else Beamer had to say. A very short answer there.
And did you get an answer from the league office about the roughing the passer and then why the replay on Lenoris took so long?
Yeah, I had a couple conversations. Yes, to answer your question, we got a response from them, and then they actually reached out to me. They initiated a conversation yesterday morning, which I appreciate John McDade, the head of officials, doing. I don't know how much I can say about all of them. I think they felt like the 2 roughing the passers were legitimate calls and warranted. And, I understand where they're coming from. I think it's tough to teach Brian what to do in midair when he was leaping. He had left his feet about the time the quarterback left his feet, and outside of twisting his body midair, I'm not really sure what to tell him, but his body weight landed on the quarterback. And we know that if your body weight lands on him, you're putting it in the official's hands. And that's why that was called. They felt like Dillon's was a good call. And then as far as the how long it took to initiate the replay, we had a good conversation about that, and I think operationally, they feel like there's an area to improve.
I love that we do get that transparency, Diesel, because if you watch that game Saturday, that's when Beamer blew up, right? Mm-hmm. After that delay, they snapped the ball, then they blowing whistles and throwing, Beamer was visibly upset. I do appreciate that Beamer can have conversations with the proper officials to figure out how that doesn't happen again.
Well, somebody should have, buzzed. I guess it doesn't really matter if you stop the play while it's happening. I know Shane thought they had a big gain there, and
it's huge.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That next play had already been executed.
Yeah,
and he hit him for a big,
huge post route right in the middle.
Where's I don't know what you can even do in that situation. Could you say, "Oh, our bad. We shouldn't have stopped the clock. We'll spot the ball where the receiver caught it." Like, you can't say we'll give him 5 yards. You can't do that.
It was clearly going to be a touchdown. It was just right over the middle, big ball, and you're talking about, again, South Carolina still probably loses the game, but at that point of the game, that touchdown's crucial.
I mean, think about it. That's a immediate confidence boost to Luke Doty. It certainly changes what happens on the subsequent drive for Vanderbilt. There's nothing that says that, it's like that butterfly effect. If you change the momentum here, it changes how the next drive is called. That changes how the next drive is called. And you can't necessarily say that all the same things would have played out in exactly the same way, because momentum changes, frustration among the players changes, the morale changes, all those things change.
Next question to Shane Beamer. Maybe.
With some of the offensive struggles you've had through the first 3 weeks, how much of it is kind of getting back to the drawing board and trying to find something schematically, and how much of it is kind of just coaching execution on some little things?
I think every week it's getting back to the drawing board. Every week you have a different opponent that plays a different scheme, and every week you're trying to put together a plan to attack the scheme that the opponent plays defensively. Virginia Tech, South Carolina State, Vanderbilt, now Missouri, they're all different in structure and how they do things. So each week you go back to the drawing board to put together a plan, but nobody's sitting in there just, pulling crap out of midair and just putting together a new offense. We're doing a lot of good stuff. We've just got to do it consistently, more consistently than what we're doing.
Do you need LaNorris to practice a certain amount of time to feel comfortable putting him in on Saturday?
Yeah, we have a pretty
good
consistent policy that if you don't practice Tuesday or Wednesday, you're not going to play. I just don't think, I don't care who you are, that if you don't get out there and practice on Tuesday and Wednesdays, especially, it's really tough to just practice on Thursday. Practice on Thursday is important here, but it's a little bit of a shorter day, and the bulk of your game plan is in on Tuesday and Wednesday. So whether you're an offensive player, defensive player, special teams player, we need to be able to see you do something on Tuesday and Wednesday.
You mentioned on
that
Sunday.
I like that. That really says a lot about the relationship between talent and preparation. Obviously, LaNorris Sellers has more talent than Luke Doty has, but if Luke Doty has the preparation, Shane feels obviously that preparation means more than strictly talent alone, and not understanding game plan, not understanding tendencies of DBs and things like that.
Yeah, and that Tuesday, Wednesday practice he's talking about, you're practicing specifically with the game plan of your opponent. So it's tough. If you miss those practices, you're behind the 8 ball. And then trying to throw a quarterback in, even if he's the starting guy, cold turkey with no game plan of, what's going on, what are we doing against this Mizzou defense, compared to a quarterback who's been out there on Tuesday, Wednesday practicing with that game plan against what they think Missouri will do, against their scout team or whatever. It is a big difference. So I think that was Jordan Kay of the State Newspaper who asked that, and I believe he had a follow-up here as well.
Hey, things aren't going well in certain areas, and that's happened over your time here. How do you, as a head coach, deal with that? Are you someone who needs to see the changes right away, or do you just kind of let patience kind of take over in certain times?
No, we only get 12 of these guaranteed. So there's not a lot of patience that you have when things aren't going well to just say, well, hopefully by November we kick into gear. I wish we could. We can't do that at this thing. We don't play
in the ACC is what he was trying to say.
God, I thought he was going to blow up at that question. Things aren't going well, Shane. What's going on? Yeah. Why are you sucking right now? Well, let me talk to you for 13 minutes.
Let's see. It was a lot quicker than that.
50 or 40, whatever it is, with Coach Maneri and Ashley, with baseball and softball. We get 12, and there's a sense of urgency, and there has been since day one. I think for me, it's every game, taking a step back, win or lose, and looking at the things that you did well, looking at the things you didn't do well, and figuring out how you're going to improve. enhance the things we're doing well, fix the things that we're not doing well, but understand that there's a sense of urgency to get that done pretty quickly also.
You mentioned in your opening statement about the incoming running back at Missouri, number 2 in the nation in rushing yards. What have you seen from him in film and how he attacks defense?
He's a stud. All those backs are, and all 3 of them are impressive. I mean, we have every Monday. I'm a glutton for punishment, so on Mondays, one of the things I do is watch the opposing offenses, big plays in the run game and pass game, and then I watch the opposing defenses, sacks and TFLs and interceptions and fumbles, just to get all the bad out of the way as quick as possible. And I feel like the explosive run cut up that I watched from Missouri's last 3 games is like the longest explosive run cut up I've watched in 5 years. It felt like it's just long run after long run after long run. It starts with the scheme they run. Their MO is running the outside zone, stretch play, wide zone, whatever one you want to call it. It's all the same, where they hand that ball off and those offensive linemen get running. And defensively, if you get reached or you get out of a gap or you don't get off a block on the perimeter, it's a 70-yard touchdown run, which is what happened against Kansas to win the game. And so they have their system, they have their scheme, and they do it really, 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 really well. And then when you add back to it with all of them, but the one from Louisiana Monroe, he's just a load. I mean, he's hard to tackle. He's got great contact balance. He's got really good speed. He's got really good vision. We got to do a great job tackling, and it takes all 11. I mean, there's a touchdown run against Kansas where Kansas brings the corner and he's unblocked and he just misses a tackle in the backfield and it turns into a touchdown. He's going to get his yards on Saturday. We've got to do a great job of getting 11 hats around the ball and corralling him, where we don't allow that to just turn into explosives. And however many yards rushing they had against Louisiana, it was an ungodly amount from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah, one more question. We got time for it.
On that topic, with their third down conversion rate, it's typically been really high, obviously, so far this season. Is it a lot of the same talking points you have this week as you guys had last week with Vanderbilt and trying to get off the field on third downs?
Yes, certainly. I mean, we when you're playing against Vanderbilt or you're playing against any team and you allow them to go, I think they were, they were really good on third down the other night, and they were really good on fourth down, and you got to be great on first and second down to stay out of those situations.
That is Shane Beamer. Obviously not the entirety, not the full press conference from this week, Diesel. But look, I think the summary from what I heard was they know that this is a big, big challenge. And Lenoris, we're going to find out tonight in this first injury report, that they have to submit if he's a go, if he's probable, if he's not. We'll see. I think ultimately that's what everything hinges on, believe it or not.
It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Upset picks coming in. Got you GC Cabinets, Young Gravy Nuts, Jeremy Nix, Dewey, Eric from Boiling Springs, Twisted Whisker, play-by-play JB, Gus Mosley. We got you all. Appreciate you getting in your upset picks. Still keep sending them in.
Let's go.
We got about 40 minutes left in the show. Send us your upset pick for week number 4. We need your name, your game, and the spread. When we come back earlier, Cole, we had an opportunity to talk with Matt Park, play-by-play voice of the Syracuse Orange. They're taking on Clemson this weekend, 17.5-point dogs. What does he see out of this matchup? We'll talk to Matt next.
Well, let's talk about the Orange, the Syracuse Orange, and their matchup this weekend, Syracuse Clemson, and get a perspective from Matt Park, the play-by-play voice of the Syracuse Orange. Matt, I know, man, you are week to week engulfed with Syracuse and what they do on the field. But how surprising has it been for you to see the 1-2 start that Clemson has gotten off to as you now prepare to call the game between Clemson and Syracuse on Saturday?
Well, it's surprising, but the schedule has something to do with it too. I would imagine if a lot of teams, if they played LSU and Georgia Tech, might run into a loss or two. So that's maybe being a little underestimated here. The Troy game, to see them trailing for as long as they were was a bit unusual, more than a bit unusual. It was alarming, but I think there's still a lot of season left, and we'll see what they have this week.
Matt, a lot of similarities between Clemson and Syracuse as far as what they want to do, which is throw first, run second. Steve Angeli, he's been spectacular through 3 games so far. How good has he been so far this season against tight coverage that he's going to face against Clemson?
I don't know if he's one who's really jamming it in there against, I think this is very, the philosophy of this offense, a lot of them, but this one, they'll advertise it as such. It's very much a take what the defense gives kind of approach. So that's why there's options and RPO and a lot of different ways to distribute the football, and it goes to a lot of different people. He did very notably on what turned out to be basically game-winning touchdown against Connecticut in the corner of the end zone, really stick one into a tight spot. And he's been pretty good. I think his receivers have made plays for him too. He's been, I would say through 3 games, it's interesting because he's, had his difficult moments too, and the fans wanted him out and that kind of thing. But he's leading the nation in passing, and it's worked out all right for him so far. So it's been kind of a mixed bag. I think Steve would be the first to tell you that. But when the game has mattered the most, he's been very good.
We're talking to Matt Park, the play-by-play voice of Syracuse. Matt, a lot of Clemson fans, a lot of people here in the upstate of South Carolina this weekend will see Steve Angeli for the first time. Obviously, you won't. People who follow Syracuse won't. How would you describe Steve and how he plays the quarterback position?
My, observation, and we're all getting to learn everybody right along with everyone else, in terms of how much the roster turns over from one year to the next. Angeli wasn't even on the team as of the spring game.
Wow.
And didn't practice with the team in the spring. So he comes in, he's played a little bit at Notre Dame, which went to the national championship game last year. And he played a couple of important series along the way. And that's about it in terms of what we've known about him. The coaching staff's known him for a long time. He played in high school for the brother of the Syracuse quarterbacks coach. So there's a familiarity stepping in the same way that there was for Kyle McCord. They'll be compared to one another for obvious reasons. They're not quite the same. And Joey's not quite as big, first of all. But my feeling on him is, again, so far so good. I think he's been really, really good. He's calm. Has every throw been perfect? No. He's had a few tips at the line and that type of thing. Came out against Connecticut, and he's missing a few high and all that. And then he dominated Colgate as an FCS opponent. So I think everybody's really anxious to see how his game travels going on the road into one of the tough environments in college football. But I like what he's been so far. He's been a leader on and off the field, and the indications are all very good that he could have a very excellent season.
So, Matt, would you say that familial tie is the biggest reason that Steve Angeli ended up at Syracuse? Because, clearly, now back-to-back seasons with transfers coming out of Ohio State and Notre Dame, Syracuse is becoming a little bit of a destination for maybe some underappreciated or underutilized quarterbacks to make a name for themselves. Was that the biggest reason why he chose Syracuse?
I don't know about the big S, but it certainly was a factor. And I think what you're getting at is absolutely right. Jeff Nixon, to me, is probably the most under-discussed aspect of Syracuse's success in the last year plus. His system really works. Their offense has been prolific for the most part. I guess maybe a couple of exceptions here and there over a 15-game span. They led the nation in passing last year. Kyle McCord set the ACC record. They spread it around to all these different people, both not maybe so much in the run game. They run it okay, not great, okay, and they spread it around to a bunch of different receivers. So I think the system and the fact that Kyle swooped in for 1 year and showed that it can be done is probably the first thing. And then the idea that Steve would have a shorter learning curve, maybe knowing the system or at least knowing the people that he would be around helped. Fran Brown is really impressive in terms of what he's the way he connects with players, the way he's up the talent level with his recruiting here. So they have probably they have a deeper field of wide receivers and pass catchers here than they've had a long time. A good experienced tight end, 2 quality running backs, and a bunch of promising freshmen there. So I think that it was more than just hey, I kind of know this guy, but that certainly can't be counted out. And the total package was appealing to Steve.
Talking to Matt Park, the play-by-play voice of Syracuse football right here on the Fan Upstate as Syracuse prepares for their matchup Saturday at Clemson, noon kick in Death Valley. Matt, let me ask you this, man. Going back to that August 30th loss against Tennessee, a very good Tennessee team, 45-26. From what you saw, and then what you also heard from Fran Brown after the game, what did Syracuse do? Obviously, they lost the game. But what would you say they did in that game to give Syracuse fans out there a little bit of hope that maybe if they can figure some things out, if they can tweak some things, they can be a team that can go compete with anybody?
Probably just sort of fight back. They were never really in the game. It was 17-0 pretty quickly. And they didn't lose by 100. They lost by whatever it was, 19. So they came back and kind of hung in there. They did some things. They ran the football, I think, maybe a little bit better than people expected. Justin Willis is a pretty good combination of size and speed. He missed the last game with a minor injury. I would expect that he will play Saturday at Clemson. And he's good. I think he's not as good now as he's going to be down the road. They throw to the backs quite a bit. Will Nixon, the other running back, is a threat coming out of the backfield. And they go empty sets quite a bit. So there's some different things that they throw at you. So to me, that they just kind of looked representative as the game went on and didn't fade was promising. But they didn't tackle well enough, and they allowed a big play over the top. Some different things that got them buried early in the Tennessee game.
Matt, I want to go a little big picture here with you. Fran Brown, 10 wins in his first season at Syracuse. Obviously, he just got there, but that is going to attract a lot of attention from other programs that would love to be able to get 10 wins for themselves as well. We know that Syracuse is willing to be patient with coaches, and Dino Babers was there for 8 years, even though he didn't have the most success that they would have wanted him to have. What do you think, a couple years down the road, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, do you think Fran is is really interested in staying at Syracuse for a long time, because I think it'd be good for college football for another team in the Northeast to have a strong foothold.
Yeah, he says he is, and he kind of goes out of his way to say it. So that to me builds kind of credibility or belief that he may be inclined to stick around, just because nobody's had a gun to his head or been that adamant. I mean, I understand that, what you say in your introductory press conference, and in my mind, it's not fair to hold that against the coach forever. That happened to a previous coach here that, claimed Syracuse was his dream job, and then he went on to the NFL, Doug Marrone. I hold no ill will towards somebody for doing that. I think if you can get to the National Football League and that's your profession, I'm more power to you. I don't think Dino Babers and Fran Brown don't see themselves as pro coaches, so that's a bad example in their case. But they could be tempted. Certainly Fran could be tempted by SEC money or something like that down the road, and I think both parties may have some decisions to make and that kind of thing. But I think for right now, he's absolutely pouring everything he's got into this program. He's been doing a great job. I think he's very transparent. So if the time comes when he's got other opportunities, I think a couple of things. One, you're certainly going to know it. I don't think he's going to sneak around about it, number one. And then two, he'll still have put Syracuse in a better position, because you're going to have to win to get and keep that kind of attention. And then there's buyout implications and all of that. But, he's got to keep doing it. And let's just see how it kind of plays out. But I don't see him going anywhere in the short term.
Matt, from what you've gathered about Fran Brown, does he use things going into a big game on Saturday to motivate the team? For example, Syracuse comes in as a 17.5-point dog on the road. Is that something in your mind that Coach Brown could use to maybe motivate the Orange on Saturday?
Probably not. I think he motivates more on a do the right thing every day kind of basis. And, hey, we happen to have a game on Saturday that is going to be the next measuring stick or the next challenge, however you want to phrase it. Mm-hmm. Be the best that you can be today and tomorrow and the next day and all of that. It may get mentioned. Certainly if they win, it's easy to come back after that when you win and claim everybody was wrong and all of that. I don't know that he's a big drum up motivation guy. And it's not a revelation that Syracuse is a double-digit underdog against Clemson. That's pretty much been the case the whole time they've been in the conference, and the all-time record between the teams would indicate as much, and that kind of thing. So I don't know that that's particularly newsworthy, and we're not inside the walls of the locker room very often, but I doubt that's made a major issue this week. It's not like it needs to be said. I think everybody's aware of it.
Matt, does it surprise you, though? I mean, to see Clemson as a 17.5-point dog?
No.
Gotcha. And I'm sorry, I said Clemson is a 17.5-point dog. I meant Syracuse is 17. Yeah. I just didn't know with Clemson, off to the 1-2 start, if that surprised you.
No, I mean, obviously, and I've heard you guys, and I've heard some, Clemson, South Carolina area people on local radio up here and stuff this week, and I watched the marathon press conference and that whole deal, and I understand. I understand what it's like. It's what you guys are talking about is what we talk about a lot during the basketball season that people just can't comprehend when you're not, a title contender or something along those lines. It happens. It's 2 games into the year. You've lost 2 games to ranked teams. I think over the long haul, Clemson's probably going to be just fine. How does it work out this game? I don't know. That's why they play the games. But it certainly doesn't surprise me that a team 10 minutes ago that was thought to be a national title contender is ranked by double digits against Syracuse. So, but Vegas knows what they're doing. But again, the games aren't played on paper, and they aren't played in Vegas.
Talking to Matt Park, play-by-play voice of the Syracuse Orange. Talk to me about this running back room. I know that it's not the strong suit of this team. Steve Angeli is throwing the ball all over the field. But in our time watching Clemson so far this season, we've seen them have some fundamental tackling issues that haven't been as crisp as they should be. Going down this running back roster, do you see anybody that really kind of has the ability to make a team that's not fundamentally sound pay?
Yeah, I mean, I think Yasin Willis is a very good running back. Now, he has not had the explosive runs of late that we've kind of come to know. The last two Syracuse lead running backs are in the NFL. They were really good players. LaQuinn Allen's a rookie with the Jaguars. His trademark was jack of all trades. He would play every down. He would block, catch it out of the backfield, get tough yards. But he didn't run away from people the way his predecessor did. Sean Tucker, who's now in the Buccaneers, would have 40, 50, 60-yard runs. Nobody that Syracuse has had since Tucker has had the explosive, run away from people type plays. So these other guys get it in smaller chunks, but they're dependable. I think Yasin Willis looks the part of a big-time running back. Been maybe a little slow to get started this year, but he ran for over 90 yards against Tennessee. That's legit. Will Nixon is the son of the offensive coordinator. The first play of the first two games, they throw it to him out of the backfield, and he picks up big chunk yardage. We'll see over longer sample size to what degree he's a contributor. And then the guys behind him, particularly the freshman running backs that got in late against Colgate, they do project to really like those guys because of the speed they've gotten involved. So right now, is it Walter Payton and Herschel Walker back there? Not right now, but they don't want to discredit the running game. I think they want to spread the ball around. They've got a lot of different options. The wide receivers are good. The tight end is good. And then if you spread the field, then you can run and put the game away. That's what I would understand to be the approach.
Matt, safe travels. Have a great call this weekend, and I hope you have a good visit to the Upstate. We really appreciate your time, man.
All right, looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, absolutely. Matt Park, the play-by-play voice of the Syracuse Orange. Really good stuff there for those Clemson fans that maybe just tuned in and missed it. Go back on the free Odyssey app.